6:02. Good morning from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park for Titans training camp. I am Robert Walsh. Titans coordinator spoke to the media yesterday. Defensive coordinator Denard Wilson spoke about the pass rush, had this to say on Jalen Harrell.
Very smart player. Obviously, coming up, high school, he played the Mike position. So for him, it's been easy to pick up the position, but he's a physical guy. He's tough. He's extremely smart. He can play both Sam and rush. And then, last week against Seattle, you seen him, he can win on the edge.
The 49ers and wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, their saga continues after they had another meeting yesterday. Talks continue to progress towards a long-term contract extension. There has been movement on a deal, but there are some minor details that still need to be ironed out with ownership approval. And if you watch Hard Knocks, we learned the Bears also tried to trade for Matthew Judon and also offered a third-round pick, just like Atlanta. General Manager Ryan Poles later explained he did not want to put out that kind of compensation for a player where they would not be able to finalize a contract. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Live from Tennessee Titans training camp, this is Ramon, Kayla, and Will kicking off a gorgeous Wednesday morning in Music City, USA. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh, and Kirby Allen. Kirby make the show happen. Reed Smith is back in our 104.5 The Zone studios. 2 more days of training camp and a massive week of football begins for starters, for backups, for us. Good morning. How we doing?
Good.
Solid. Very solid, man.
Cool morning out here. Feels good.
I'm looking at it before it gets too cold. This is about as perfect as it can get, man. And what a week to have perfect weather, man. That's all I tell you. I'm looking forward to this weekend. I ain't going to say real football, but some competitive football from the ones, man. We were promised from the coaching staff, so I'll take it.
We were promised. Hopefully they will deliver.
Yeah, we will promise. We were promised that. So, beautiful, man. I got to also temper myself driving in a little bit better, too.
What's that?
Because when I go work out in the morning and I get a shot of coffee, man, my foot gets heavy on the gas, and I got to figure out the balance, man. Life is all about balance. Is that okay to just self-diagnose that?
I would say so.
That way,
you made it here one piece, so that's okay to do now.
And then that's usually the plan, okay? That is usually the plan to do that, man. So, beautiful start to the morning, though, my brother. How about you, Will? You always ask us. Kayla, we never ask Will, how's the morning?
Thank you. Wow.
Well, sometimes we do.
Nah, we usually don't.
I am taste testing something live on air this morning that I actually like more than I thought I would. Yesterday at a local shopping establishment where shopping is their pleasure, I got some moon pie coffee, and it's actually pretty good.
Moon pie coffee.
It's actually pretty good. It's the vanilla moon pie coffee as well. It's got a little bit of vanilla and like some graham cracker taste to it. It's not bad.
Oh,
I drink coffee black in the morning, so I just wanted to try something different. I'm not going to put any cream in it. I'm going to sweeten it up. We just need a shot of caffeine straight to the veins to start a morning. That is the only way to wake up is with black coffee now for me.
Okay.
I've really changed in this past year as I'm older and wiser now at 27. Yeah. But it's actually not bad.
So what made you think you needed to sweeten up it this morning?
I don't always go to honestly, I never go to this shopping establishment with a list. I just go with wherever the spirit moves.
Sure.
And the spirit moved me always towards the Made in Tennessee section.
Okay.
And this was Made in Tennessee.
Is this a shopping establishment, a TJ? Is that it?
No.
It's not them. Okay, all right, well, I'll go ahead and drop it.
Are you saying because they got lots of coffee choices?
Yeah. This Trader's Place, man. I went in there 2 times. Hey, that is an experience. You hear me? It is a full-fledged experience. It's like expensive water in there.
It's actually Trader Joe's is cheaper than most other grocery stores. If I say anything bad about Trader Joe's, my girlfriend will disown me.
It's straight
she
up.
will leave me so fast.
Okay, well.
I
She
don't know.
she loves Trader Joe's and Joe Jonas. I think just about the same level as me.
That's
so.
a person, the second one, right?
Joe Jonas.
Oh, yeah.
He is a singer.
Because Trader Joe sounds like a real human, and I know that's a store.
Probably
so you
was at one
mentioned
point.
Joe.
Who's to say?
I'm saying.
We don't have the technology.
We got to figure this thing out. Like, we don't have a TJ's, okay, in Hendersonville, so this is all new to me is
One
what
of
I'm
these
saying.
See, I thought he meant TJ Maxx.
TJ
so
Maxx.
I thought
when
that's
he
what you
said
were saying,
TJ's,
too.
I was
I thought that's what he
like, all
said,
right,
too.
that's right up my alley.
Also, again, another place that my girlfriend will disown
Yes.
me if I say that I don't like them.
So she gets bougie and also bargain shop.
Trader
what you're
Joe's is
telling me.
not bougie.
It's not?
No, if you go there and look at the price. No, I'm serious.
You'd
I'm
think
not
it
even.
would
I'm
be.
not even doing a thing right now, Ramon. I'm serious. If you go there
Okay.
and look at the prices of things, it's like actually cheap.
Kurt?
Mm-hmm.
The $2 Chuck red wine they have is
$2
phenomenal.
Chuck. Okay,
It's like
ju-
$3 bottles of wine.
Just because you got foot stump
Very
grapes
good.
and bottles don't mean that
I
it's
don't
cheaper.
go there, but I will
Okay.
defend the people who do.
Okay, I've only gone once. I was looking for maybe 2 times. I was looking for seafood stock, and now the Trader Joe's has like pickle flavored popcorn, and you can get all kind of fresh
Yeah, I don't
other
know that
types
stuff.
of seafood. I know they go crazy for
It
the
is
pickle flavored
unique.
popcorn, is what I've heard.
Their
okay?
pumpkin stuff in the fall though is
And I've heard that too. I've only seen it in nice places, in nice neighborhoods. So I automatically expect it to be super expensive. So that's just
No,
me for
that's
false
not a
claiming
bad.
that for them.
That's not a bad kind of guess there because
Yeah.
it is in like Green Hills and
Yeah,
then there's one in
and
Bellmead.
Cranberry in Pittsburgh is a place. You hear of a city named Cranberry, okay?
Juice?
You know, no, Kayla, Cranberry. Okay, they got a Mars up there too to let you know that you know what. Now I'm playing.
Sounds
You
about
all
white.
up
I was
in
gonna
there.
say,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah, Cranberry
Like a
is or Marshall, okay,
Marshall.
are the townships that I've seen Trader Joe's in. So I've only gone in like 1 or 2 times, but all I've ever heard about is the pickle flavor popcorn.
I'll put you on game really quick.
All right, talk to me nicely.
So
then.
what you should do if you ever need to get your wife, your girlfriend, anybody a bouquet of flowers.
Yeah.
Super cheap,
Yeah.
super extensive selection. If you know her favorite color, her favorite pairings, you can go in there and pick a little thistle of this and a little stem of this. And they have a great selection on flowers. I don't go in there for
Really?
groceries. I literally only go in there when I make Cheyenne mad and have to get her flowers.
Look at you, you thoughtful,
a weekly
thoughtful
trip.
person.
A weekly trip.
somebody in the YouTube chat said it is similar to Aldi. They got really good nuts there.
Oh,
Okay.
Which one? These ones?
No, Aldi's.
Give me a little bit, girl.
That's not the way you say the joke. Though. That wasn't the
I
right way
had
to
to
say that.
twist it around because we already said
Trader
nuts.
Joe's and an
Well, no,
Aldi
but I-
are like
Forget it.
I thought it was.
a Ford
You say
Escort
Aldi's.
and a Mercedes.
That's all I
Or
was
that.
thinking.
I guess you could go that way.
That's the punchline of the joke. Is Aldi's nuts. Really good.
We're all unique.
615-737-1045 is the
gets me
number.
mad.
Coming up this morning, Rhett Bryan will join us at 9 o'clock. We're going to tell you the Titans' late round rookie who is most likely to make a big impact this season. Coming up in just a few moments. A big week, though, Ramon. Are you getting secondhand stress watching the last week of training camp transpire for all these dudes trying to grind and make this roster?
Well, I'm gonna be real with you. I do. You know I'm a softie in a lot of different ways. Reed, you better not save that, okay? Don't save that audio. I'm
6'10", Reed.
I'm a softie in a lot of different ways. Why are you talking? No, I'm kidding. I am, man, when it comes down to this, because I remember being a guy that was in this spot, David Martin Robinson, who feel like, okay, I've had a good enough camp. In my mind, this is the best I've ever felt. But you just never know what your fate is whenever they close the door on that 53 man meeting. Like, that's usually how it goes. Like, and I know that's practice squad now that's extended and whatnot. But, well, Kayla, Bert, Curb, listeners, like, you wanted to be in that room when that door got closed. And I didn't understand what that was. All I can remember was thinking whenever Coach Tomlin called us into that final meeting for camp and said, men, here's the 53-man roster. And then he immediately said, but don't y'all get too comfortable. We're going to be searching the waiver wire for players that we can replace. So, yes, you've initially made the 53-man roster. And all I wanted to do, and what a lot of people don't understand is, I wanted to make it to the next Saturday. The next Saturday means that 3 o'clock my contract was valid and I'm on the team at that point, because usually that's when injury reports come out on Saturday, and that's team travel day. So Saturday at 3 Eastern is when it officially gets stamped. So you'll see some veterans get cut that Saturday before the game on Sunday, just that roster flexibility you give to where vested veterans don't make the first week roster. So, yeah, I do, Will. I see a lot of this, and there'll be a lot of dudes this week that'll try to do outlandish things, probably get a penalty in this game this upcoming weekend, just to show that, look, at any moment, Coach, I'm going to give you 110% effort. Or every moment I'm going to give you 110% effort. So there's a lot that goes into this weekend.
615-737-1045 if you want to jump into the discussion. Streaming live on 1045 The Zone TV. That's video on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Coming up, the Titans' late-round rookie, anyone other than the first 2 picks, most likely to make the biggest impact. That's next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson. So, question for you. Do you feel like maybe you're losing some hair, or you just want to get ahead of it before you actually do start to see some significant hair loss? Did you know you can lose up to 50% of your hair before you even notice it? That's why I recently contacted We Grow Hair, not because I'm completely losing my hair, but I saw some spots up front near my temples that I was not happy with, and so I decided to get a hold of them, and they set me up on a great plan. Super friendly there, willing to get you in whenever you need. We Grow Hair's PRP platelet-rich plasma treatments. Those are great. You can do those once a month. And then on top of that, the FDA-approved laser therapy, super simple, super quick, and painless. It is helping restore my hair. Their trademarked hair transplant also gives you 3 times more hair in one procedure if you are looking for something like that. You can't buy this cutting-edge technology online, and for almost 30 years, We Grow Hair has been Nashville's hair restoration premier medical clinic. So don't wait. Go to WeGrowHair.com today. Schedule a free evaluation today. You just have to call them at 615-376-6010. That's 615-376-6010. Or go online to WeGrowHair.com and tell them that Kayla sent you.
Wednesday morning, kicking off the show. On Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW. Full crew here live from Ascension, St. Thomas Sports Park. If I were to ask you, outside of J.C. Latham and Tavondre Sweat, which Titans rookie will make the biggest impact this season, who would you say?
Ready, Kayla? On 1, 2, 3. Jarvis
Brownlee.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The opportunity, I think, presents itself a little bit more. I think if they're, besides, you said, J.C. Latham and Tavondre?
Yes.
Jarvis Brownlee, I think, off top, man. Just from what we've seen in camp so far. The opportunity to play against offenses that are very pass-centric in today's NFL is also going to be a thing. He's proven himself to be somewhat game-ready with how he goes about his practice and his play, and also just the buzz that the coaches have about him, too. You can tell a lot. Again, we I think, analyze what coaches say sometimes, or under-analyze what they say, and they're giving us the answers to the test with all things that he's doing. And the other side of it, too, is, and this is something I thought about yesterday, we were speaking about the starters playing a good bit this week, for me, is small skill guys, cornerbacks, wide receivers, sometimes tight ends, running backs. When they don't have a true ramp-up period, there's opportunity for those dudes to have soft tissue injuries and stuff like that. With that being said, we've seen Jarvis Brownlee play outside. We've seen him play inside. I think the best version of this defense is probably having Roger McCreary stay in and letting him play out in situations. So I think there's just going to be more opportunity for Jarvis Brownlee to play in this defense this year. He's exactly what Denard Wilson wants in a player, it seems like, as a rookie. And there will be more grace given to a dude that looks to be, at this point, a L'Jarius Sneed 2.0 to me.
Yeah.
That's a strong word.
That's a strong word. I know. Look, there's a limb right there. I'm jumping out on it. I'm not afraid to say that one, man.
I think there's still development that needs to happen there, but I think that the fit is exactly what it should be in this type of defense. I mean, he really does fit it to a T. And I think what Ramon's saying about the opportunity is true, especially in the position of cornerback. It's such a physical position. We've seen just recently with the Tennessee Titans, too, you always have to have that depth there because there are always going to be a little bit of those injury issues, and especially if you've already got a guy like Chidobe Awuzie, who, has had some injuries in the past. He's had an injury to start camp. I'm not saying he's not going to play this season. I hope he's healthy for all of these games. But reality is there's probably going to be a time or two that either L'Jarius or Chidobe are out. And so I think that's where Jarvis Brownlee can really start to come in and make a difference because he'll continue to have that growth throughout the season. And then at some time, he might have a span where he's playing and he can make an impact at that point. So that's why I say him. I just think the opportunity, like Ramon said, is there, and he fits this defense. But I would also say, along with that, it wouldn't be fair then to not mention Jalen Harrell in this situation because he also has impressed coaches in camp. His name has come up a lot, especially recently with these preseason games where he's actually going out there and doing it on the field in live reps. And when you look at that outside linebacker room, there are still a little bit of question marks in terms of depth. Harold Landry, I think he's going to be a stud. I said it on the show before. I think he's going to have his best year. But other than that, Arden Key still has to prove he can be that 3-down guy, still has to improve on last year's numbers and just how he's making a difference on this defense. And Rashad Weaver, we all know, where will his role be? Will it be more situational? He hasn't done anything horrible in camp, but he hasn't stood out incredibly either. So he has an opportunity, but I just think Jalen Harrell has something about him where he's going to work that much harder, and fits this defense and kind of understands, what it's going to take to be a rookie that's going to have some sort of influence. And I think he will.
Jalen Harrell's my answer. I think there's a bigger need at edge rusher than there is at corner. If Chidobe Awuzie is hurt, then I think we'll see a lot of Jarvis Brownlee. I think either way, we'll see a lot of Jarvis Brownlee this season. But Denard Wilson yesterday, Titans defensive coordinator, was asked about the rookie pass rusher from Michigan and broke him down saying this.
Very smart player. Obviously, coming up, high school, he played the Mike position. So for him, it's been easy to pick up the position, but he's a physical guy. He's tough. He's extremely smart. He can play both Sam and rush. And then, last week against Seattle, you seen him, he can win on the edge. And it was good to see him power rush early in the game to kind of set the tone. But he's a good young player. He's mature for his age, and he just continues to get better.
Pass rushers talk about a lot having different tools in the toolbox. How deep is his toolbox?
Right now, I just want him to have 2 in the toolbox right now, and that's for mostly all of them, especially the young guys. What do you do extremely well? Okay, you hone on to that one and then have a second move. As you start to master those 2, now we can pick up another one to put in that toolbox. But for me, I like seeing them go hit somebody in the face early on to kind of set the message and then try to win on the edge.
I think that's really interesting insight from Denard Wilson, talking about not giving a player too much to do. Let's master 1 or 2 things before we move on to the next thing. And I think that comes with just confidence in the guys that you drafted. Like when you are on the same page with the GM, with the head coach, with your coordinator, with your position coach, and you have inherent confidence in the personnel on your roster, you can allow them to do 1 or 2 things really well that you feel like they can specialize in before you add something else into the toolkit.
The old saying, what, jack of all trade, masters of none? Like, that's essentially what he's saying right now as far as the way he wants him to develop. So I had a very interesting exchange with somebody after the game on Saturday. And this person was trying to figure out, I got to figure out how to win these rushes and stuff. And I'm just like, man, just run through a person's face first. Set them up. You know what I'm saying? It's essentially what I told him, like, set them up. It's like, I've been trying that move. I'm like, okay, well, you figure out how to set them up. Because one thing offensive linemen hate is somebody trying to run through their face and then trick them on the next alternative rush that they'll have for them. And that's essentially what Coach Denard Wilson is saying right there is do one thing right first, and then we can stack and build. Like, if you're trying to do too much at one time, you're going to look like a fool out there trying to get home, and that's what I think Jalen Harrell's specialty should be. The guys that I've seen that have really good rush plans, and we can name them out right now if we wanted to. The guy that I played with, James Harrison, would do that arm hook thing that he did over left tackles and just drag guys to the quarterback.
Hook and hold?
Hook and hold.
It's a flagrant foul.
Oh, my gosh. But you know what? It was his thing. Think about Von Miller. He'd rush upfield and dip. He didn't try to run through guys. Dwight Freeney, another one of those rushers off the edge, right, was just simply get guys around and hit the spin move on them. Like, guys who are good at their job, they have a specialty of 1 or 2 moves, and they build and stack off of that. And they always go to those 1 or 2 moves because there's not enough time to have 5, 6, 7 different moves to get to the quarterback. And I think that's smart on Denard Wilson by telling Jalen Harrell, look, you win doing this. Why would I ask you to go get a dip and a spin move and a, pull and grab a guy type of move? Like, no. You win doing simple things in this game. And I feel like that's essentially in all sports. I talk to Savage all the time about basketball. It's 3 dribbles into the rim. That's all we're trying to do. And guys that understand that, look, keep it simple, stupid, is essentially the best thing you can do for your career. If I specialize in one good thing, and that one good thing always rings the bell week in and week out, we can live and eat with that. And I think that's probably the smartest thing that Jalen can do moving forward. So much so that he may actually move up because the thing that he's doing is netting a real good outcome. And that's what you want from a rookie. And I don't mind just being basic. I always tell guys, if it's boring, then you're probably doing something right.
Yeah. I would say I just like the mindset of Jalen Harrell. We spoke with him after that game on Saturday, and he's just so cool, calm, and collected. And from a guy that went to Michigan, and you maybe didn't know his name off the bat. There's the guys that you knew right away at Michigan, but they won a national championship. He says, no one cares about that here. He's like, I'm not thinking about that. Like, I have to restart. My mindset is just like, this is a whole nother, era of my football career. And that's kind of how he's approached it. He just has that attitude where, and I think, honestly, all these rookies kind of have that attitude. Now that I'm thinking about it, they just go in and they're there to work, and it's almost like they already have a little bit of professionalism about them. that it's hard to teach that. And it's hard to just, hit the lottery when it comes to that sometimes with draft picks. And I feel like for the majority of these guys, they've kind of done that.
If I were to set an over-under at 375 yards this season for Jaquan Jackson in the Titans offense, where would you go from that number?
I go under.
You don't think he has a big offensive impact?
Jaquan Jackson?
Yes.
Not this year. Where he's going to be? Was he mostly slot or outside? Is where we've seen him.
I think a little bit of both.
A little bit of
Probably do
both. It's too many other receivers here to just give him that many yards, in my opinion. If you told me 225 for the first year guy like him, I'd live that life. But I think the ball is going to go to the first three. NWI and Traylon. I just don't know if he's going to build that much of a rapport with the starting quarterback, Will Levis, to say, yeah, he's going to have over 375 this year.
Yeah.
That's just a young guy having to pay his dues and do more on special teams and be an all-purpose yards getter more than anything.
I think eventually he could be a dude that they utilize more in the receiving game. I just think this rookie year they're going to let him, contribute on special teams as a punt returner possibly, because remember in college too, it's not like he was putting up wild numbers as a wide receiver. He was, touted as that special teams guy, which I think that's what they're going to have him do at least this rookie season. Then if they continue to see good things from him, I think you could incorporate him more throughout his tenure here. Absolutely. Because I think he could be a weapon in certain situations.
He's the only speedy slot they have. He's the deep threat. To me, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too much because I continue to see him on this field and on the preseason field making plays in the passing game. I think there's a bigger role for Jaquan Jackson than that, just within this offense. I don't see him as just a return specialist. And I feel like in this system, as you've got your gadget slot in Tyler Boyd, in whoever the other slot is that makes this team, whether that's Kyrus Jackson, whether that's Mason Kinsey, whether that's Kyle Phillips, which does not look likely at this point, or whether it's just Jaquan Jackson, you're going to get a different dynamic in Jaquan than I think you are all those other guys, right? I think he is your play-action, deep down the field target that I've hoped Traylon Burks would be, but I don't see him being that for this offense from what we've seen at practice and through camp so far.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, but it's also watching Tyler Boyd, the way he worked that first week when he was out here in the practice field, like the understanding that that's his role, that's where he's going to play.
Yeah, there's two different roles, right?
Yeah,
like Tyler Boyd being, again, like the over-the-middle slot guy, and then Jaquan Jackson being the let's get you matched up on a safety that you can run past deep down the field.
Well,
guy.
see, that's where the issue for me lies, is that connection of getting the ball down the field consistently. Like, and again, what is his separation like at the line of scrimmage, and what is his catchability in those moments? Like, we're still working on this chemistry between Will Levis and his wide receivers down the field. Like, if you told me it's a deep over, okay, I can live that life. But like, if you're telling me he's supposed to streak down and beat a safety, and Will Levis is going to connect with him, we haven't consistently seen that for me to believe that he's going to be that type of weapon. Now, again, minus Tyler Boyd in the offensive set, I can see him potentially getting over 375 because he can work the middle and side to side. But when it comes down to just proclaiming him to be that type of weapon, I'm with you. The Kool-Aid tastes good on what he's possibly able to do in his career. I just don't know if it's going to be in year one from him with this many hands that's trying to catch the football from Will Levis and this year while they're also trying to get established.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. There's just so much stacked in front of him, and I think they want to keep him on this roster, absolutely, because he's done enough to prove that. But, you've seen it before with some of these guys that special teams is first and foremost, and then, depending on their growth or whatever, they'll work them in. And if Calvin Ridley and that, shot downfield with him and Levis hasn't even timed up, I just don't see how many reps, Jaquan Jackson is going to get with the ones here to be able to kind of time something up like that. I think the first and foremost thing is for Calvin Ridley and Levis to get on the same page.
I think his biggest impact on this team is going to be special teams.
Chris on Twitter made the exact comment that I was about to make, saying Jaquan Jackson is your Khalif Raymond.
Yeah.
I think that's 100% accurate.
And what was Khalif Raymond's career like here as it pertains to
200
his yards?
Yeah.
200 yards.
In 2020.
And a team.
That's about right.
He would go deep for some
in
shots.
Detroit, he's had 550-plus yards.
Yeah.
In 2021, 600 yards in 22, and just shy of 500 last year. That's about right for me. Like, ultimately, what you want Jaquan Jackson to be by the end of his rookie deal is closer to that. But I don't think you guys are giving him enough of a role within this offense. I really don't. I don't think the chemistry down the field piece matters much now, because we haven't seen that with Levis at anyone. That is one thing, though, that I don't worry about with Will Levis at all, is his ability to find guys deep down the field. I think he's always got that in his locker, and they want to fine-tune the change-up and the slider more so than the fastball that they know that he can throw.
Yeah, I just think, when reality hits, he is a rookie. We've seen good things in training camp, but during the regular season against the ones, we still haven't necessarily seen that work yet. So I don't want to jump to conclusions when you kind of know right now what's, again, stacked in front of. If it was the Titans of 2 years ago and that depth chart was not as deep, and then you didn't have two running backs also that can be utilized in this offense in the pass catching game, I just think there's so much in front of him. It's hard to see him go over that. I'm not saying he won't get any. I'm sure he will be utilized in certain situations.
His role in year one, to me, will be a bigger special teamer than it will as an offensive weapon.
Well, I agree with that, too. I think both things could be true.
Yeah.
I do think, though, guys, that this is the best training camp a rookie draft class has had in quite a while here in this city. There's only one guy that's really not contributed, and it's Cedric Gray because of injuries. But I think this draft class has a chance to be the foundation that the Titans build a run on, where we're looking back in 2 or 3 seasons and thinking, all right, that all really started, and the Titans being legitimate contenders again started with the draft class in 2024. I think there is a strong chance that this is the group that really starts this thing.
Well, if that's the case, then we also got to put the big three in there, too, from last year. Peter Skoronski, Will Levis, and Tajay.
Yeah.
Legitimately. Like,
I agree.
Those last
It's
two,
just not as
for
many
sure.
guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not as many guys, but it definitely starts with them, especially when you consider Peter a trenches guy that is somewhat can establish his left side of that offensive line, who, again, I'm going out on another ledge. You can tweet this one too, Will. Peter Skoronski is a strong Pro Bowl candidate this year, period. You said we
came
to that. Yeah. No, we can jump off the same platform and break
That's
it. Do you
right.
understand me?
Welcome.
There's like a weight capacity on that thing, and I'm
I'm
willing to
saying
break
he's
it with
making
you.
the Pro
Okay? Yes, 100%.
You better get his whatever the hula skirt and his
back in
pineapples
Hawaii?
ready. I don't know. I just
don't matter at this
in my
point,
brain,
right?
the Pro Bowl's always in Hawaii.
And again, the more we see more personality out of him too, which we've seen in training camp this year, that does play a part into the fan-centric side of voting for a guy like Peter Skoronski. Titans fans, I'm telling y'all right friggin' now, if y'all ain't hyping this guy up all year long, you got one for sure. I'll say this, 2 young guys, him and Tajay, whether it's all-purpose for Tajay or running back, y'all need to be on y'all phones, tweeting, yelling, and screaming at anybody that will listen to you about your 2 young studs.
Hashtag Pro Bowl Pete.
Hashtag look
Started
at us. Yeah, Pro Bowl pick. Big skull, baby.
Commenter on YouTube says, are y'all saying Jaquan Jackson's ceiling is Khalif Raymond?
No.
First of all, that's not a diss. That's not a criticism, because Khalif Raymond's had a good career
Right.
in the NFL. I mean, if you're 600-yard receiver 3 straight years, essentially, then you're doing something pretty good as an undrafted guy, and him as a late-round guy. But no, I think the comment is that is the way the Titans will use Jaquan Jackson at the start, is the way that they used Khalif Raymond as a smaller, faster, deep threat playmaker who is also going to contribute in special teams. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion, and in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube. There was a comment that made Ramon Foster very upset from an old NFL player who still happens to be playing. That player now says this is the hardest camp he's had in years. We'll take you to Jets camp. Get the latest from Aaron Rodgers coming up next.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW, wrapping up a gorgeous first hour of the program here live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. I don't really enjoy when Aaron Rodgers opens his mouth. However, I do enjoy breaking it down sometimes. Gets the people going. I got Ramon Foster going a few weeks ago when Aaron Rodgers said that football is easier than it used to be.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday, Aaron Rodgers says, I would say the camp is much harder this year and maybe the hardest in the last 7 or 8 of my career. Interesting, Robert Saleh says the Jets have taken 300 more practice reps than they had at this point last year. How does that happen? How were you, first of all, taking so little reps last season to where by this point you could take 300 more reps at this point of training camp and preseason than you were at this point last year? How does that happen?
Robert Saleh had an old crap moment. He realized his job security ain't as safe as he thought it was. I think that's the first answer to it, Will. And last year was the honeymoon period for Aaron Rodgers. They had a big spectacle and press run, and I mean, it was loud with Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets last year, right? So I think Coach Saleh got to a point to where he wanted to cater to what he thought Aaron Rodgers needed. He probably thought Aaron Rodgers didn't need a lot of practice reps with his team, too. And I think when you have a marquee player like Aaron Rodgers get injured on the 4th play of the season and you realize the rest of your team isn't conditioned without him, I think that's the side of it. And the thing for Aaron Rodgers, because the stories about him is this. Because he's so veteran and because he has so much talent, he never really had to do the things that he had to in Green Bay. You knew at Sundays, Aaron Rodgers is going to do that thing where he rolls out and throw the football and be immaculate at it, right? So there was no need to make him work this hard. I think now the sand is moving through the hourglass fast on his career and also Robert Saleh's head coaching career to where he's now understanding, look, work is how we win things around here. And I think because of that, they may be a better team, if not better prepared with how strenuous this camp has been. Again, Aaron Rodgers is a guy that's essentially gotten what he wants in almost every place he's been since he's become the guy.
Except a first-round wide receiver.
Yeah, well, there's always that, right? But I think it's just a reality check for him that at the end of the day, football is a very physical, hard sport, and you got to train yourself that way too.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is probably going to have something to say about everything nowadays. Like, he is the guy that wants attention on him all the time. Doesn't matter what it is, what the subject is, if it's football, if it's non-football, Aaron Rodgers wants to somehow have an opinion on something that's a strong opinion or that's a different opinion. I swear, like, that's his MO nowadays, is how much attention can I get on myself. So for his situation this year, saying that it's been a tough camp in terms of how many reps that they've had and everything, well, okay, you're also a quarterback that is going to have to prove himself this year after coming off the Achilles injury. You're not the Aaron Rodgers necessarily of old anymore. You are older. Like, you are dealing with injuries now. You are a guy who has obviously other things in their life that have taken priority over football at moments. And you are going to still have to go in here and prove that you're the quarterback that's going to lead this team to what they think is a playoff run, or what is expected to be on paper from when you're looking at this roster, a playoff run. And we don't know if that's the case yet, because we don't know who Aaron Rodgers is going to be as a quarterback. So I think it's just him kind of, again, bringing more attention to the situation that probably doesn't need to be brought there. And if you're Robert Saleh, you're right. Your job's on the line pretty much. If you don't have success this year, including your quarterback, you're going to be out. So if it as adding 300 more reps or whatever it is, so be it. And Aaron Rodgers, like, you're still a quarterback on the New York Jets team. I know you're 40, but you haven't won anything lately.
Well, the context of it, too, he didn't say he didn't like it. He said some of the older players are enjoying the, to steal a coaching word, callous part of training camp, where you are grinding. Some people believe that although it puts more strain on you in training camp, it actually gets you more ready to play when the season starts. It's pretty much a total departure from his comments earlier this offseason, where now he's like, yeah, actually, this is kind of what I'm more used to. Nathaniel Hackett has been complimentary. Jets offensive coordinator, saying he's a little older, so he's lost a bit of the speed he used to have, but praised him for conditioning and determination during injury recovery. We'll see. That's
Yeah,
the most fascinating team in football to me this year.
I'll believe it when I see it
Jets.
The
happen.
New York Jets are the most fascinating team in the NFL entering this season because there is so much pressure on Robert Saleh, and your window is about as small of a championship window as anybody in the league. And on paper, they should be great. On paper, they should win the AFC East, in my opinion. But
Over Miami
yes,
immediately?
absolutely.
I
They
push
are
back on that
loaded.
one.
They're loaded on offense and defense.
I push back on that one a little bit. So is Miami. That's going to be spicy.
I'd take Rodgers over Tua, though.
Nah.
I don't know.
We still know who Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, at some point
But
he's
do
going
we? We haven't seen him play in
course
like
we
over
do.
a year
I mean,
and a half.
he's got such a long career of consistency that, Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to prove much, in my opinion. He is who he is. He'll turn into a pumpkin eventually and get to the point that Brady did, where he just couldn't physically be that guy anymore. But I don't think we're at that stage yet. I
We'll
think they're
see.
very good. They're going to be very good. 615-737-1045 as Hour 2 begins. Denard Wilson updates the status of Chidobe Awuzie and L'Jarius Sneed. You will hear that next.
If you're often feeling tired, lacking motivation and drive, gaining weight, or noticing a loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone. Don't wait. Find out. At Low T Center, they make it easy to get your levels checked. It's just a simple test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get results back in about 25 minutes. And Low T Center is not a typical doctor's office. Their physicians specialize in treating low testosterone with customized therapy, or TRT, for each patient. The experts at Low T Center have over a decade of experience helping patients achieve life-changing results, and most health insurance is accepted for treatment. For established patients with stable T levels, they also offer a convenient physician-monitored self-inject treatment plan that ships directly to your home each month without the need to come in for the weekly visits. And at Low T Center, you can also get your health evaluated for treatment with prescription GLP-1 weight loss medication. So get back to your best. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
What's going on? 7 o'clock. Good morning from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park for Titans training camp. I am Robert Walsh. Titans coordinators spoke to the media yesterday. Defensive coordinator Denard Wilson spoke about the pass rush, had this to say about rookie 7th-round pick Jalen Harrell.
Very smart player. Obviously, coming up, high school, he played the Mike position. So for him, it's been easy to pick up the position, but he's a physical guy. He's tough. He's extremely smart. He can play both Sam and rush. And then, last week against Seattle, you seen him, he can win on the edge.
The saga between the 49ers and wide receiver Brandon Ayuk continues. Had another meeting yesterday. Talks continue as they progress towards a long-term contract extension. There has been movement on a deal, but some minor details still need to be ironed out with ownership approval. And if you watched Hard Knocks, we learned Bears tried to trade for Matthew Judon, also offered a 3rd-round pick just like Atlanta. General Manager Ryan Poles later explained that he didn't want to put the team in a position where they could make a trade, but couldn't finalize a contract with the player. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into our number 2 of your Wednesday morning. Ramon, Kayla, and Will on a crisp fall morning in the Volunteer State. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh, and Kirby Allen Kirby on sites at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. With Reed Smith hitting all the right buttons back in our 104.5 The Zone studios. 615-737-1045, the number. The F&M Bank chat is the room where you discuss whatever you want to with the people of 104.5 The Zone. With us, that's Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.
Twitch, please.
Denard Wilson speaking yesterday to the media. Himself, Nick Holtz, and Colt Anderson, 3 of whom you will continue to hear as the show continues this morning. Updating the status of Chidobe Awuzie and L'Jarius Sneed, the Titans defensive coordinator, had this to say.
The one thing about all those gentlemen that you just talked about, they're all professionals, and they've done it, and they've done it at a high level. They do a lot of talking in meeting rooms. Obviously, when we go out there and do walkthroughs, all of them are out there on the field. We'll get them all on the field together before we line up and play the first game, but I like where they at. All of them are pros, and we'll be just fine.
How concerning is the lack of practice for the top 2 corners in this Titans defense?
I'll say this. It's always a little concerning when you're talking about a position that has been lacking health and depth in the past few years. And I know this is a brand new roster and you've pushed the reset and you've clearly added these 2 veteran players to help boost that secondary. But when it comes down to it, it's hard to evaluate what they're going to be like, especially to start the season when they just haven't been out here. And that's really been the case with both of them. We've seen L'Jarius Sneed 1 or 2 times briefly. We really haven't seen Chidobe Awuzie in training camp at all. We saw him a little bit before that in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, but not as much as we'd probably like to have seen him. And they both kind of have an injury part to their resume, right? I mean, for L'Jarius Sneed, he played through all of it last year and helped his team win a Super Bowl. So that I'm not really concerned about. I think that's smart to manage a guy like that who has maybe an issue that he continues to deal with his knee. It's just something that's kind of a chronic thing. As for Chidobe, though, I just don't know much about his injury past besides that ACL 2 years ago and then bouncing back last year, not having as much of a productive year as you'd like him to have. Now, he did play in like 15 games, so it wasn't like he wasn't healthy, but that's a long time for not having a lot of reps under your belt in terms of this training camp season when you're trying to press the restart button. So I'm not overly concerned, guys, by any means, but it does kind of make you question what are they going to look like, at least at the beginning of the season. Is it going to take them 2-3 games to get into that groove that you need them to be in as the starting corners?
Chidobe Awuzie has not played a full season since 2019.
Yeah.
When he was a member of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. You asked the question, how much am I concerned about them having a lack of practice and everything?
Yes,
Will?
that was a question.
For guys there as veterans as they are, what is this, year 8 for Awuzie, is fascinating to me. And the thing is what Kayla said a second ago with L'Jarius Sneed, is a plan for him. Like, I've seen guys not practice throughout training camp, and week 1 they're ready to go. Here's the thing. What does their ramp-up look like when we're not here? What does the ramp-up look like the week before they get going? As long as their hamstrings are intact, they're hydrated and stretched well, and there's no issue for what they got going on. Like, I think this week is the week that you start getting them going as far as the wear and tear that their body can have, making sure their feet and body understand what it feels like to play with cleats on and not just flats. As far as their play and style goes, there's a lot that goes into this preparation. I'll be the first one to tell you. Now, I play a totally different position than both of those guys. I was a lineman, and their corners. They're a little bit faster. Their muscles are a little bit different than mine, the way the makeup of them are, the way they use them and everything, right? But I didn't practice an entire camp and went out and started a full 17 weeks, or 16 weeks at the time. So I'm not overly worried about it. I think those guys are true pros when you're asking them. But here's the thing that's going to be on the forefront of all headlines with those two dudes. It's the need for really good cornerback play, simply because of, one, their status that they have. I think that's the first thing that pops up. And also the pay that comes behind guys. You don't want to see your team pay for guys that end up on the sideline because they either didn't practice or they didn't have the proper ramp up. Now, one thing I do trust is this. From all things we've heard about what the health facilities are like inside Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park and how they've revamped their training room and the processes of how they get guys going, there is a method to what they have moving forward with them. And the thing is, for as far as L'Jarius Sneed goes, this is what Kansas City has done for him at least last year, and has got really good production out of him. And even still, looking at the snap count that Chido Awuzie played last year, he still played over 700 snaps, if you look at it. Again, not a full season, but to be in 15 games, start 10, and play 73% of the defensive snaps says a lot. And on top of that, 56 special teams plays too. So he's got a good base under him on how to manage what he's doing. My thing is this: get guys to Sunday. If he's good and there's no soft tissue injuries moving forward, then I trust this plan moving forward. But here's the thing about it. We hadn't seen this staff do this with this crew,
right,
and I'm not sure if there's many players that haven't practiced with this team in years past, because why? We found out, of course, for the most part, and this is his style, and that's okay. Vrabel was a grinder. Everybody had to show up to the party each and every day and be held accountable. But this staff has a different plan for this group. And, again, the addition of that one more game, 17th game, I think some guys do need a little bit of caretaking before actually the season starts. So, as it stands right now, we got, 3 weeks before kickoffs? Yeah. So there's still time to get up to speed. I don't know how many players are going to play against the Saints this weekend, but that would be a good test as to where they are, because the Saints are going to try to stretch them out, because I got a feeling that there's been communication that the ones are going to play against the ones for a good little bit.
And I think what's different in this case, too, is it's a little bit rare when you have so much newness to a team, including a new defensive coordinator. Both of those guys are coming from new organization or from different organizations. And they're both starting corners. Like, these are both guys who have never played here before, who we haven't seen really a lot during training camp, and they're both the starters. And so that's why I think it's okay to have kind of question marks until you see it, because those are two huge roles and guys that you haven't seen a lot from, so it's hard to predict that. But I will say Brian Callahan has made it clear, at least when it comes to L'Jarius Sneed, the Kansas City Chiefs have been in good communication with him when it comes to how they kind of managed him, and it looks like they're taking that exact page from that book. So that's always good to hear when it comes to Sneed, at least. I'm not really as worried about him.
I am interested to see how the staff can keep guys healthy this season. I know 1 year is too small of a sample size to be able to say, if you have great injury luck this year, that they're amazing at that, or if they have a couple of bad luck injuries, that they're just terrible at keeping guys healthy. Like, one season is not going to tell us that story, but if I'm Amy Adams-Strunk and I'm paying all this money for all these new football players to come here, what was it, close to $300 million that they spent this offseason, I need to know that they're actually going to be on the field, because the reason why the pass coach isn't here is because his starters were not often enough on the football field.
He also had a pattern of that happening over years, too.
That's right.
And the philosophy that we've seen about his method showed why also. But there's been a lot of changes that, again, I don't want to sell the fact that it's fully changed, because you're right. It has only been a year that we've seen this group stay and keep everything together. So there's a lot more sports science, I feel like, that can really figure out what guys need and don't need this year. We've seen it, or we've heard other coaches talk about it before too. There's a plan, and when you hit that plan, their strength and conditioning coach brought that up to in a press conference. In his press conference, is we have the GPS. We understand what you need week in and day out. And when you hit that threshold, we're going to pull you back. There's a method to it. We just got to see what it looks like. And, again, the money that's been thrown out there, that's going to be everybody's biggest, issue if they're not out there. As well, we paid all of this money. Well, injuries happen in football.
Coming up, I made a list last night of the players who are most desperate this week, who most need a good week at training camp. It is quite a list. There are a lot of names on this list. We'll give you the players that are in the highest desperation mode. Who needs to have a good week of practice? We'll tell you next. What's up? It's Will Bowling. Is your water heater not heating? Maybe your sink is leaking, the drain is clogged. Well, available 24/7, 365. Our expert friends at Lee Company have you covered for all of your plumbing needs. Nothing worse than that hot water lasting 30 seconds, a minute, then it's gone. Well, let Lee Company take care of you, and right now they got a great deal for you as well. You can enjoy $20 off a plumbing service call for a limited time. You just got to contact them, 615-567-1000, or you head to their website, leecompany.com, for an appointment to take care of your home's plumbing from top to bottom. These guys are experts on anything that's going wrong in your home. Maybe it's preventative maintenance for your HVAC, for your plumbing, electrical systems. Lee Company does it all, and they have been in business for 80 years doing business the right way. Again, that's $20 off your next plumbing service call at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. Ramon, Kayla, and Will broadcast live this morning and tomorrow morning as well from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Whole crew here, Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. Before we get to the Titans players who most desperately need a good week of practice, did you guys see Scott Hansen ended the guy's whole career on Twitter yesterday?
No.
Scott Hansen?
The host of NFL Red Zone.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the guy to catch a predator.
Who?
What?
NBC Dateline.
No.
That's Chris Hansen.
Chris Hansen.
Okay. Yeah, Chris
Wow,
Hansen.
yeah, you were in deep on that
Not a
NBC
big fan.
Dayline,
I used to
man.
love that
I
show.
know, it is a
You
good
hear
show.
me?
Ramon, come in here and take a seat with me real quick.
I know. No, absolutely not. Have a seat here, pal. No, tell me about Scott, though.
So, Maryland Sports Report on Twitter yesterday says, my hottest take about the NFL is that NFL Red Zone sucks and is a complete waste of money. You're basically just watching highlights for a few hours in a time where social media is so quick, it's completely useless. Scott Hansen replies to that horrific take, says, my hottest take is that you posted this for attention, not because you actually thought it and believe it. But hey, if you actually do believe it, no worries. Enjoy the commercials and standing in the huddle shots and 9 additional looks at a replay when one is conclusive and, oh dear, I've run out of characters.
You know what? I'm actually Team Scott Hansen on this one. I hate Red Zone. I do.
So you're not Team Scott
No,
Hansen.
what did he say? He said it's the dumbest
Scott
thing
Hansen
ever?
no. He was responding to the guy who said it's the dumbest thing ever because Scott Hansen hosts Red Zone.
Yeah, I don't
Not
think.
Dateline.
I don't.
What the
well,
heck?
Yeah, you think I'll be listening to you? I don't be listening
Well,
to
no,
you.
no. I'm saying I don't even care that you don't listen to me.
I'm kidding.
I'm used to that at this point. I'm used to y'all just wait till I get done talking. But why do you hate Red Zone?
I hate Red Zone.
How
I
long
don't
have we
watch it
been
either.
friends? What?
It cheats the game. Absolutely cheats the game. Like if I want to see touchdowns,
I'm surrender cobering right now if you're not watching online.
If I would just want to watch touchdowns, it's one thing. But see,
you
that's
don't
the
just
thing
watch
about
touchdowns.
it. I'm not a guy that like I like to see the play unfold. I like to see the build up of it.
You see the play
I don't,
unfold.
And then the thing about it, if I'm just clipping and just watching just deep passes, like it doesn't give the full
this
context
is
of how good or how bad
It's
the
not
team
called
is.
NFL touchdown. It's called NFL Red Zone.
called-
They
but
pick it up when you're in the red zone.
But it's also called a football game too, and
I
not just
know.
throw passes in the air and catch them. Like there's a lead up to get to that point, and I think you cheat the game when you only watch Red Zone. To me, I honestly think that's one of the silliest things that they have given the world in a sense. Like I absolutely hate Red Zone. You got to go back and forth. Oh, now we're clipping to this game. Oh, now we got to clip to this game. Oh, you missed this deep pass 5 minutes ago, but let's show you on Red Zone.
It's awesome.
Like watch a game, get multi-view is all I'm saying. Is like I think there's so much going on in the middle of games. Like this is why fans cheat players out of Pro Bowls and just accolades too, because they only want to see the big plays. Like you don't see Peter Skoronski dogging this guy
Yeah, you do.
on the 30 to the 35 on Red Zone.
Yeah,
you
you
don't
do.
see. No, you don't.
Yeah,
if you're on
this-
the other side
Ramon,
of it,
all this is
that's
telling me is that you don't actually, you've never really given it a chance because
I
you
have.
see, like,
I had Xfinity where it was implored, like where it was given to the world, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. You cheated.
There are windows where there's only like 3 or 4 games on. Like you see a ton of football.
Yeah, and I
You just don't see commercials. Like they're not taking away like the buildup. They're just taking away the commercials and the replays and the here's Gene's Steratore to like it. Gene, I know it was holding. Like all right, I get it.
Yeah, and I love all of that. I'd much rather talk about what happened and why this player sucked on this play than to say, oh, it's all good. Like, to me, Red Zone is for folks that want to just think the world is paved with gold roads.
Well,
and I'm just
that's
like,
me.
absolutely not. That's not the case.
I think for me, it's first of all, I'm mostly watching the Titans on a Sunday, and yes, there's games after that usually, but then I'm focused on just that game. I don't think my mind can go to that many Red Zone different takes and comprehend everything. I need to just like completely watch a whole game out so that I can digest it. But that's just how my mind works. I feel like everybody's mind works so different. And I will say, new age, younger generation, they like the quick, here it is now. That's what they like.
At me.
Yeah, I'm adding you big time.
I'm
you
shocked
cheat
and appalled. This is so disappointing.
Yeah, like
This is so disappointing.
What you got for us, Kurt?
Kirby Allen Kirby. Is
Here's the
entering
downfall of the red
the
zone.
fray.
I mean, noon games. You got what you're talking about. Bouncing from at 3 o'clock, they go talk show. You don't see another doggone highlight for an hour and a half.
True. That's just not true.
It's Kurt. It is.
If you're gonna stick with that format, stick with it until everything is done.
There we go.
Follow. No,
when
they
there's
don't.
only 3 games on and everyone's in commercial, then yeah, they're going to do. Here's our Amazon Prime connection
At
of the day.
3 o'clock, they dump the entire format and
No,
put
they
just
don't.
yeah. I've got it too.
That's factually.
I haven't watched it in 2 years
That
because
is
it's just a
incorrect.
waste of time.
Red zone is like microwaving a pot pie. Like, no, bake mine in the oven,
Well,
okay?
Zach Bunch said it's for ADHD, and that's exactly my point.
This is
It's
exactly
for
what it
people that
is.
want to watch every game at once.
Why I
It's
want to
for
watch
football
every game
fans.
if I'm a fan of only one or two?
Because it's football. Football's king, Ramon. You know this more than anybody. I switch there in Titans commercials. When the Titans are on, obviously I don't watch NFL Red Zone while the Titans are on, unless the Titans are in commercial, because I would rather see touchdowns than commercials. And then I'll switch back to the Titans once the commercials are over.
Here's my thing about Red Zone. I don't want to see Browns versus the Redskins on a Red Zone and, here's a touchdown
Commanders,
from Deshaun
come on,
Watson.
you're going to get canceled.
Oh, wow. I said that. That's how
What did
I'm
he
really. I said the R word, okay? Let me cross my legs real
Your
quick.
argument is
all right?
invalid.
No, it's not.
Invalid.
I'd much rather not see. I'd much rather not have to watch the Commanders versus the Browns and the one highlight that they have. Like, if it was that trash of a game, then I don't want to watch it.
You want that or Whopper? Yeah, I'm gonna take Commanders Browns over another
Absolutely
Whopper or Nationwide
not.
commercial.
No,
Absolutely.
yes, I will sit through and watch the commercials because that means I can
goodness.
tweet
All
and
right.
give my brain
Anyway.
a break for a second. Like,
Anyway.
What an
that is
argument,
by
man.
far- no, I think
I'm
Red
shocked
Zone
and
ruins the
appalled.
purity of the game.
Ruins the. All right,
Yes.
you're just getting. You're getting ridiculous now.
No, it's just, you asked how
Oscar
I
in
felt.
Germantown,
Thank you,
615-737-1045. What's up, Oscar?
Man, Will, I'm with you on this one, homie. I love Red Zone, and I'm a big-time Titan fan. It makes me feel like I've seen the whole game, and plus it's great if you play fantasy football, so I'm rolling with you, Will.
Thank you.
See,
I appreciate it.
So it's two things I didn't want to
Fantasy
say in that.
football and betting.
gambling. Yes,
And gambling,
those are the
yeah.
two things
Yeah.
that get you. Like,
What's wrong with that?
I love
I'm
Red
not
This is
gonna
America,
gamble.
isn't it?
that's very
This is
true
America.
too.
What the heck? What are we doing?
What we also need, I heard somebody say too, is call up and say what your fantasy football league punishment is for losing too for you fantasy football Red Zone watchers. Okay, but to me, I enjoy watching film. I enjoy watching, see if a guy,
I
he
do
got
too.
beat this play, next play. Red Zone don't deliver that to
It's
you.
Okay,
so
but I have the
fast.
All 22 on NFL Plus that comes out on Mondays.
I
where
need
I
to watch
know.
it one
So
time.
that's what you do. You go back
You
and
do
you can
both.
watch everything that you need
Por
to
qué no
watch
los
on
dos?
all 22.
It's too much. Absolutely not.
Oscar
it's
gets
it's
it.
for betting and for fantasy football.
Welcome
and I get
to
that.
the way most people consume football.
Well, I just open up my fantasy football app and see who did and who did not.
Yeah, I
Tony-
don't use that for fantasy football.
Tony in Lebanon,
No way.
615-737-1045. Go ahead,
Big
Tony.
T, what up?
Okay, so I just want to say that I can see both sides of it because from Ramon's side, being an ex-offensive lineman, on the offensive line, you don't make the highlight reels unless you make a mistake.
Hey.
See both sides of it. So that's why I think I can understand both sides of it. For most of us who were not offensive linemen, I feel like Red Zone is a useful source.
Fair enough.
I'm making a shirt, Tony, based off what you just said. OL versus all y'all, okay? Just for that, Tony. Know that when you see me OL versus all y'all, know you did this to me, okay?
All right, we've put out a Twitter poll of love it, hate it, or indifferent on NFL Red Zone. We'll let the people decide.
You remember on no, you don't remember that show right there. Hated it. Yeah, Live in Color.
What's that from?
Hated it and Live in Color.
What's
Kenan,
that?
It's a old school.
This is 90s, okay?
Yeah,
This
cool-
is before your
cool,
time.
a cool
I
show.
was born in 1997.
Very
Kenan
cool
Ivory
show.
Wayans and the Wayans brothers, like all of them. I
Yeah.
mean, J-Lo
I think
was on
J-Lo
there.
was a dancer
Yeah, she
on
was a
it.
dancer
That's where Jim
before.
Carrey got
Yeah,
his
she
start.
was.
Jim Carrey got it
So
started.
Ben
now.
Affleck probably doesn't like it then, considering they just filed for divorce
Well,
yesterday.
Ben Affleck? Well, he was
Those-
living
I,
in
for one, am
color.
shocked
Those
that
two
J-Lo
idiots
is...
got back together and thought it
J-Lo's
would work.
another divorce,
That's their
yeah.
problem.
Y'all know we're talking
Anyway.
about pop culture. Somebody's going to get mad. We're not talking sports. Let's talk sports.
Thank you.
You hate the way I am.
Oh, you're
this
such a
morning, don't
pro.
you?
No,
man.
I'm never mad about
Yeah,
switching
I
it back to
love that.
sports.
No, I like pop culture. Let's do that too. And live in color.
Which Titans player most desperately has to have a good week at training camp?
Who desperately needs to? I thought about this one for a while. I said,
Kirby says all of them. All right, guys, that's the show.
That's the
The Buck
show.
Rising show is next. He'll be live from training camp. He's going to take you all the way up until. All right.
from what we understand, Kirby is also the Turk that cuts people on cut day too now, all right?
Kirby's the one they say, hey, bring in your playbook. Kirby's going to show you the way out.
I actually thought about this, though.
You're good at that job.
Not that I'm a thinker. Yeah,
I would like for you to think about the things you say in the show.
Because there's a lot of of players that need a good bit, though. Like, John Njoku first comes to mind. I said, no, not him. Jalen Duncan comes to mind. I said, no, not him. The running backs, right? Hassan Haskins and Julius Chestnut both need Mason Kent. There's a long list. But this list probably comes from the guy that I'm picking from this list actually has somebody that's on his heels, and that's Rashad Weaver. The worst thing that can happen for a defensive player who's an outside rusher is to have a young guy come in and show that he can do the same things that he's doing. And I'm not saying Rashad's going to be cut at anything like that, but the emergence of Jalen Harrell, to me, in the same settings, getting production, not just last week, but this week also, I think puts him in a very dangerous spot as far as what this team's going to ask of him, the opportunity that he's going to be given, and when you double that up with the production of a cheaper, younger player that has, at this point, a high roof. He's got everything that you want. Come from a big program, understand what winning looks like, and is at a spot to where you're optimistic about it.
Denard Wilson yesterday was asked about Rashad Weaver and what he has seen from him. Reed, if we've got that. This was the Titans defensive coordinator talking yesterday.
You know, with any player, I think it's more in the tank. With him, it's just about the confidence and just believing in what he's doing on a daily basis. Because when he plays angry and he plays with confidence, he's a really good player. And, you know, that's what we're trying to instill on him. That every day is that same, we want that same guy.
How do you make him angry?
We all have our ways to do that.
It's kind of evil from Denard Wilson, but in the way that you get paid to do, right? Doing his job. But that is the question for Rashad Weaver. Can he maintain that level of consistency and maybe just consistent anger in order to be the guy that he could be for this team?
Yeah, we haven't quite seen that yet, and I know that he's done a lot of good things. He slimmed down his body, which I think has helped a little bit. And the thing with Rashad Weaver, though, is I agree. The confidence kind of comes and goes with him as a player, at least since I've covered him here. And, you know, what you've seen on the field, you've seen some really high moments from him. And also in parts of, you know, training camps in the past. And he's had a couple big moments in training camp here. But overall, it's the kind of consistency of keeping that confidence and being able to contribute on the field. And like you said, whatever makes him mad, you know, maybe you got to find that specific thing. And I think this coaching staff will probably continue to try to find that and work with him this season. I think he'll make the roster. He can be a good situational player, but if he wants to be anything more in the future, I think he really has to take advantage of this opportunity and really find a way to consistently be a guy on the field that can stay mad and contribute. So it is really interesting, though, because that's the first guy when you said there's guys that are kind of on that line you question. He is one of them when you see a Jalen Harrell kind of exceeding expectations as a rookie. My other one would probably be, you know, you mentioned Mason Kinsey. I also mentioned Kearis Jackson because Kearis Jackson kind of went through the bruise on the knee. He'd been really good in special teams return game in the past 2 preseason games, and we were talking about him possibly contributing there. But now with the bruise, can we see him this week? I don't know, and I think that could determine if he makes the roster or not, which at this point it's more so looking like he probably won't.
Yeah. Nick Holt spoke about a little bit of separation on the offensive line yesterday, the Titans offensive coordinator, speaking about Nicholas Petit-Frere and Dylan Radins getting separation on the right side of that OL.
You watched last week against Seattle, you know, they really got 2 games in on whatever that was, Wednesday and Thursday. And I thought the run game, you know, we really started out really well, especially on Thursday. You know, those first 8-10 plays, we had some pretty big gashes, some good runs. And then, you know, they kind of got going and got us a little bit. And it was kind of like the flow of a regular season game where you're not just going to kind of go and impose your will on somebody. So from an evaluation standpoint, we really feel like those guys are starting to gel. You know, it's really been the same 3 center, left guard, left tackle for the whole time. And now really Nick and Dylan, you know, have kind of moved up a little bit, or I would say they've started to separate. You know, certainly the evaluation's not over, but I think we can kind of picture it as a group of how it's going to flow.
That's Nick Holtz yesterday. Guys, if you are a tackle on this roster, you need to have a terrific week of practice.
You do.
And that goes all the way from J.C. Latham to Nicholas Petit-Frere, proving that they can continue to just protect their quarterback and be consistent. Every rep critical for rookies, so obviously that applies to Latham. NPF, I don't need to tell you how much practice he has missed over this offseason and how critical it is for him to continue to be out there. But, guys, nobody has really been great behind those two over the last 2 weeks.
No.
And John Ojukwu, we were saying really positive things about 3 weeks ago, and that's been about it. And Jalen Duncan has had mistakes in games. He has
Penalties.
not been right. That's what I'm talking about. He's had mistakes in the games. He's not been consistent in practice. Leroy Watson and Jaron Christian don't really jump out to me. Where we've seen some consistency and some positive stuff from Andrew Rupsich and from Cole Spencer, from Daniel Brunskill, who's been one of the highest grade PFF players so far in preseason for the Titans. I can't say the same about the tackles, and I just get the feeling that this team's swing tackle might be on someone else's roster right now.
And even last week also at Rupsich too. I mean, the penalties that he had to bring back the ball, like he has to answer the call this weekend also, because he was given a lot of opportunity, and whether it be he got exposed because there was a lot of plays or he just happened to show his true side, he needs a bounce back week also. But to your point about the third tackle, I think the guy is Jalen Duncan, because it needs to be.
He's got the highest ceiling. There's no doubt about it.
And here's the thing about John Ojukwu to me. Like, when we listened to Coach Brian Callahan speak about him earlier this offseason, it was everything but the football side of it, right? He's first in, last out type of guy. He does everything you want him to do. He's what you want in a player, works hard, etc. But that was also without seeing what his play will be like. Now, there are some good things that he's done. I think in a pinch he's good, but it's a matter of him growing up fast. It's a matter of him being more consistent, and that's why guys are backups in this league too. It's a level of consistency that has to show up to show coaches that you're worthy of these reps and that you're becoming a true pro. The same conversation we're having about Rashad Weaver, right? Trying to find out what makes you go. Like, if we're speaking about confidence of a player who's in his fourth year or his second and third year in the program, like John Ojukwu, Jalen Duncan, Rashad Weaver, then we probably got other issues that we need to figure out, because it ain't about their play, it's about their mentality. If you're not strong enough mentally to be a guy that understands what's in front of you, let's start with the check first. There's no other job in America that's paying young men like this in America, period, where you automatically are making a sum of $600,000 or more. Think about that side of it. So if you got to mentally be motivated to go to work and try to get better each day, then this probably ain't for you. And I'm not saying that it's not. There's levels of growth that have to happen, but we shouldn't be talking about confidence at this point right now, trying to figure out what kind of pro I am. Coaches know what you are. It's a matter of you being what you need to be day in and day out, and that's the issue for these dudes. Like, we knew John Ojukwu has the smaller, lower body, and he's smart, etc. But go dog somebody. Show me that first. Jalen Duncan, stop jumping off sides. Like, we can undress these guys on their flaws and tell them what they need to be doing. But all of this comes to a GM will tell you, I'm going shopping, to your point, to go find me that third tackle on somebody else's roster. And you don't want to be in that spot.
Yeah, when it comes to Jalen Duncan, I'm starting to get worried. I'll put it out there. This guy, there's a reason why he slipped in the draft, because he has all the physical attributes to be a guy that could be a great left tackle. But since Maryland, there's been that missing part to him. And there is a little bit of the dog that's missing in him, too.
I actually think he got the dog in him.
I think I'd like to see a little more from a guy that's that big, too. And, has those physical attributes to take advantage of his opponent. And I just feel like sometimes it goes missing. And it's his second year under a really good offensive line coach, where I can argue a lot of these guys have already improved, including Nicholas Petit-Frere and Dylan Radins, who have kind of locked up those starting spots on the right side. And I'm still just not seeing the progress I need to see from Jalen Duncan that I would like to see, because I think, he has way more talent than John Ojukwu. Hands down, he should be able to be that backup spot. I'm getting a little bit worried that we're not seeing it quite yet.
The reason you ended up with Dennis Daly a couple years ago is because nobody emerged in camp, and you had to do a pick swap to add a swing tackle right after camp was done. So if you mess around and your own dudes don't take a job, you might end up with another Dennis Daly as your swing tackle. I don't think anybody wants that. 615-737-1045. Tua Tagovailoa's comments on the Dan Lebitard show went so viral, they made it back to Brian Flores, the now Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator and former Dolphins head coach. Tua sounded off. Flores responded with a very interesting long-form interview session with Minnesota media yesterday. We'll give you the highlights next. Hey, it's Will Bowling with exciting news from my friends at Brentwood Hearing Center. Their doctors of audiology are always committed to giving patients the most recent hearing device technology. Their leadership team recently attended the launch of a revolutionary hearing aid, the Phonak Sphere, which is dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations where there's a lot of background noise. With a computer chip completely dedicated to address speech and noise, the Phonak Sphere will help you when you're out to dinner at a noisy restaurant, you're visiting with friends or clients at a cocktail party, even while you're attending sporting events. So if you are having difficulty hearing conversation where there's background noise, give them a call today and schedule your demonstration of this industry-changing hearing aid technology, which also connects directly to your smartphone and television. 615-377-0420. That's the number to call Brentwood Hearing Center. Their website is great as well, online at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's 615-377-0420. Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing, better life. Wrapping up the first half of your morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will already. All right, KW, 615-737-1045. Our good friend Grant Ramey has chimed in on Twitter this morning.
Let's go.
Says NFL Red Zone is elite second screen viewing. Your team's game on the main TV, Red Zone on an iPad or second TV or whatever. I will accept that answer. That's a very fair take.
I love how you only find the stuff for your ass on that. No, Grant don't know ball. He don't know this one, man.
Am I not old school for liking NFL Red Zone?
No,
you can be old school and like NFL Red Zone.
Absolutely not. That's
I don't
not
know.
how
I consider myself an old school sports fan.
Very new way of watching
Yes,
things.
it is.
Okay,
How
so
dare
no,
I.
Grant is wrong and sorry.
Do you want one that backs you up too? You want me to read another tweet?
No, I don't want
Read
none
one
of
that backs
No,
Ramon.
no.
There aren't any, so that's crazy.
Ramon, retweet
We'll
it.
see.
Did you retweet it,
I did
Ramon?
retweet it, Kayla, and you know who's going to win this. The no's are coming in strong.
Okay, here's one. Hulk 840.
Love him.
I'm Team Moan on this one. I get bored with Red Zone. I'd rather watch game highlights.
It's so
There we go.
silly
There's your
is
one
what it
tweet
is.
that backs you guys up.
Well, we'll win it. I'll win it by the end of the
So
day.
Brian Flores has responded to Tua Tagovailoa on Lebitard. If you missed it, we talked about that yesterday, where Tua Tagovailoa essentially called him a bad person. Said if somebody came to your job and told you sucked and didn't belong every day, you'd essentially start to believe it as well. I thought Brian Flores really handled this well and said, I think part of coaching is correcting. I'm always going to correct. I'm always going to have a high standard. I've done a lot of reflecting on the situation, meaning in Miami when he was the head coach, reflecting on the situation and communication. And Brian Flores says, I think there's things that I could do better for sure, and I've grown in that way. Tyler Dunn, friend of the show, tweeted yesterday, said, people I talk to legitimately believe he has evolved since the Miami experience, and said that he and Kevin O'Connell, the head coach in Minnesota, complement each other very well. Guys, I think that's the biggest thing. If you want to be a bad cop as a head coach, it is critical that you have a good cop on your staff as well to round out that entire experience for your players. That way everyone kind of feels seen, so to speak. And I think, first of all, Flores has maybe learned from this experience. And secondly, he's kind of the bad cop, maybe more so to Kevin O'Connell's good cop in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think it's always, like you said, that's always beneficial to anything in life, honestly. You've got the bad cop maybe in dad, and mom's the good cop. Mine was opposite growing up. And I just think that that's good to have balance, because I'm never not okay with having someone strict in my life. Having grandpas that I grew up with that were very strict and old school helped shape me as a person. I truly believe that. And these young men, I think it's very important that some of them have that in their coaching staff. But I think there's a balance to it, right? You can't have a guy that's constantly just putting you down, like it sounded like Brian Flores was doing to Tua Tagovailoa, where he didn't think anything was good about him as a quarterback. But it is awesome that Brian Flores realized that. And he's like, okay, I'm probably got to find a little bit more balance, but he's still going to be an old school type of coach. And that's great. That's a great point that he's balancing it out as a defensive coordinator and Kevin O'Connell as the head coach in Minnesota. I think that's a perfect kind of match. And that's what I hope Mike Vrabel will take from this if he decides to go back into coaching. I still think he could be a good head coach if he knows how to balance it out with maybe some of the good cop, or maybe having advice taken in about the coordinators that he's hiring and the staff that he's hiring, and allowing them to actually do their jobs too. What it looks to be the case here that's happening with Brian Callahan and his staff.
No doubt. Carol in the F&M Bank chat said, being strict is different than being demeaning. That's the difference right there. And Flores owned up to it. That's all you wanted from him was to say, yeah, I messed up. And then other thing with Flores was he was brought there to lose and asked to lose because they wanted Tom Brady and et cetera, too. So there was a lot that went into it. I'm sure Flores wish he can go back and push back at ownership and have different conversations and honestly be allowed to coach better. That pressure, man, is a different one. But I'm glad he and Tua had this exchange, well, separately.
Yeah, right.
And
they still haven't spoken.
Yeah, it hadn't spoken. So good on Flores, man. Everybody tell you he's a really good coach. And he's gone around the way with Coach Tomlin and now with Coach O'Connell on different methods. I'll tell you this, Coach T leans in. But there's a method to understanding how to get the best out of your guys to where, as Carol just said, you demean me personally, then it's a
Right.
different conversation to be had.
It was a really interesting just discussion because Tua played for Nick Saban. Like, it's not like Tua Tagovailoa has never been coached by an old school football guy before. I think sometimes with coaches like that, you wonder about their intentions. Like, are you coaching me this hard because you want me to get better and because you care about me, or is that just for you to put on a show, right? Like, it's kind of like the teacher who wants you to fail their class just because they want to be known as the hard teacher.
Oh, my.
Or is there a teacher that's giving you a hard test or quiz because they know that's the best way you're going to learn because they actually want you to succeed, right? Like, I think it's the exact same thing. Like, it's challenging sometimes having a teacher who's like, no, I want you to get a 60 in my class because I want to be known as the hard teacher, on ratemyprofessor.com or whatever. And then some classes are just hard because the teacher wants to challenge you to make you better. And it feels like that's kind of the mix there that coaches are trying to find and what Tua and Brian Flores have referred to. Good on Brian Flores. I think he comes out of this looking pretty good in my eyes, just the way he handled that and the way it's about a 15-minute press conference that he did yesterday, and it's up on social media. So, again, I gave you just a snippet of what he said, but there was a lot there. I think he handled himself well.
Yeah, I think now the next step is eventually them just talking it out. Why not, right? You both got your stuff out there. Figure it out in maybe the next offseason. Have a convo.
2 hours left in the show. 2 hours left until the Titans hit the practice field as we continue to broadcast live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Who's the one player you're most interested in watching today? We'll tell you next.
If you're often feeling tired, lacking motivation and drive, gaining weight, or noticing a loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone. Don't wait, find out. At Low T Center, they make it easy to get your levels checked. It's just a simple test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get results back in about 25 minutes. And Low T Center is not a typical doctor's office. Their physicians specialize in treating low testosterone with customized therapy, or TRT, for each patient. The experts at Low T Center have over a decade of experience helping patients achieve life-changing results, and most health insurance is accepted for treatment. For established patients with stable T levels, they also offer a convenient physician-monitored self-inject treatment plan that ships directly to your home each month without the need to come in for the weekly visits. And at Low T Center, you can also get your health evaluated for treatment with prescription GLP-1 weight loss medication. So get back to your best. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
8:02. Good morning from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park for Titans training camp. I am Robert Walsh. Titans coordinator spoke to the media yesterday. Defensive coordinator Denard Wilson, talking about the pass rush, had this to say about Jalen Harrell.
Very smart player. Obviously, coming up, high school, he played the Mike position. So for him, it's been easy to pick up the position, but he's a physical guy. He's tough. He's extremely smart. He can play both Sam and rush. And then, last week against Seattle, you seen him, he can win on the edge.
The 49ers and wide receiver Brandon Ayuk continue their saga. Had a meeting yesterday as talks continue to progress towards a long-term contract extension. Have been moving on a deal, but some minor details still need to be ironed out with ownership approval. And if you watched Hard Knocks, we learned the Bears also tried to trade for Matthew Judon. Had a third-round pick trade completed just like Atlanta, but general manager Ryan Poles later explained he did not want to put the team in a position where they could make a trade, but they couldn't finalize a contract with the player. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Feels like fall this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW in football weather. Football. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, live from Tennessee Titans training camp on a crispy Wednesday morning with Robert Walsh and Kirby Allen. Kirby making the show happen. Reed Smith back at our 104.5 The Zone studios. We will be joined in an hour by Titans Radio's Rhett Bryan as we get you ready for Titans and Saints Sunday right here on The Zone. Great to hear the Brian Callahan show, by the way, kicking off on Titans Radio earlier this week. And all of the Titans Radio programming that is back in your lives. Those guys crush it as always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always fun when you have a new coach that kind of does things a little bit differently, and that coach's show, you can get so many good, interesting questions that are asked that maybe we don't get to ask out here. And so Amy and Mike did a good job on that first one, and really kind of getting to know Brian Callahan continuously throughout the season, I think will be really fun through those ups and those downs, because we also have to know it's not going to be perfect, right? We haven't had to really see him talk about adversity much at this point, so.
Real quick, some information just passed to me about Nick Saban on Hard Knocks. Did y'all hear or see this?
Was it he was on Hard Knocks the first episode?
Yes, it was the first episode. My good neighbor Kevin, a couple
weeks ago,
texted me and said this, and it's on social media too. Said that Nick Saban went on Hard Knocks. Said he never disciplined his quarterback in front of everybody. If he ever got onto him, it was so. Again, the quarterback is one of those specific situations. We're talking about the Brian Flores.
Yeah, Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa have been a big story this week.
Yeah, to whereas he said, of course, yes, he go at his guys, but the quarterback is different. I've always stated that when you're the franchise guy, starter in college, etc., you are coached with white gloves on in a sense, because their mentality goes to the success or failure of your team. So it was actually fascinating to see that Nick Saban said that out loud, and everybody knows that the quarterback is different, and your success is based off how good he feels, honestly. So
Hard Knocks has been good this season, by the way.
Went back to their old ways.
I will tell you if I don't like it, and I have, and probably will again in the future, but I don't know if it's just because the Bears are just an interesting team with a lot of really fascinating storylines this season, but I think maybe Hard Knocks has had to step up its game a little bit because there are so many documentaries, including the one on the death of Steve McNair, which came out yesterday as well, that I know, Kayla, you watched.
Yep.
But there's more competition in that marketplace now. There's more vying for your attention, so you got to step up your game and do like actual behind the scenes work versus just, hey, this is team PR that wanted to put out a couple of stories on guys that have no chance of making the roster.
Right, because you're learning some different things this year from Hard Knocks than you have in the past. And even the off-season one, we saw them take a whole new approach to, letting you inside the management's way of thinking how they did things with the Giants, that we hadn't really seen that before.
Right. Those decisions, man, I've said it before. I'll be honest. I never wanted to watch those episodes if we were ever a part of it, because I had a former teammate of mine who retired and went inside the building to the scouting room and the team coaches or the defensive side of things, like, y'all don't want to go in these meetings with us. It's brutal, and I'm sure we get a little bit of it. Well, we saw a little bit of it from the Giants this past offseason, and hearing the discussion between Saquon and how the conversation of running backs, how you're viewed and how you're valued and what they think of you. It's for players that like to just go play ball, that's some hard living right there. Is watching them say, no, he sucks. We can only give him one for $1 million.
Right.
He's like, what?
It is crazy, hearing them, because the one thing that never gets old are videos of rookies doing their karaoke songs.
No.
The Titans are doing a great series as well that's coming out when the Brian Callahan TV show airs on WKRN this season, of a kind of a mini series looking behind the scenes at games. And the Titans, they put out Braden Narvison's song.
Love it.
Yesterday, and he got booed during a lot of his. But it was funny, Austin Reed was doing his song on last night's Hard Knocks episode, and in Chicago they all say their names, all of the colleges they played for, which, again, Braden Narvison had to say with the Titans that he said 5 colleges, literally, because he played in so many different places. And then they say their signing bonus in Chicago, and Caleb Williams goes, Caleb Williams, USC, $25 million. And Tyson Bagent looks like he just wants to, not be in that, be anywhere else but that room. And then Austin Reed goes, Austin Reed, Western Kentucky, $5,000.
My type of guy.
Awesome.
My type of guy right there, man.
Amazing.
I just love when the most unassuming guy steps up on that rookie performance talent show night and belts out something, and they're all like, "Wait, where did that come from?"
The Canadian offensive lineman for the Bears who wore an American Eagle Speedo that stars and stripes, and it had a little eagle in a very specific place on the Speedo, and he sang God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood.
Nice,
pandering to the crowd.
And then he got hurt in the Hall of Fame game.
Hey, well, I'll throw this out there too. The clips that's on social media. Braden Narvison deserved to be booed, okay? Comes up there and give this long list of schools that he attended, okay? And it's not his fault. Hey, they allowed him to do it, so let's do it, right? But then the reason he got booed is because as vets that's trying to have a good time, you're asking for crowd participation, having us slow clap and give us something. And then he tried to play the game to where he gonna sing some Michael Jackson, and I'm like, whoa, you're not even gonna give us nothing but the hook? Boo that man. I was booing him last night watching the clip myself, all right? Braden Narvison, you're not that guy, all right? We had it yesterday, but I'm not for you, okay? Don't get me involved and then drop a dud out of nowhere, and you can only do the hook. I need to see you dancing like Michael Jackson, moonwalking, and also doing a backflip. You did none of those things. Man can kick a 59-yard field goal, but can only learn the hook of a Michael Jackson song. Do better.
We've had this conversation before, but what was your song again?
Usher.
Oh, which one?
7 o'clock on the dot.
Okay.
If you're going to get the crowd going, is that
Did you
one.
do a dance move with it?
No, absolutely not. I stood up on the table.
I would have liked the roll.
Oh, my gosh.
You can go to Twitter, go to Mike Keith's Instagram at TENN Voice. You can see the video we're referencing. Sunday's game experience that premieres when Titans football with Brian Callahan debuts on September the 10th. So looking forward to it. Who are you most interested to watch today?
Today? At
10 o'clock practice today.
It's starters week. Will Levis. Starters week.
Yeah.
I want to see that. The running backs can't really see much in practice. O-line, D-line, we've seen them and know what they're capable of. I think it now we start to, and coaches are probably already, I pulled up Chicago Bears depth chart just to look at their squad too. And this is where some installation of game prep starts to jump into the scene. Hey, scout team, Chicago Bears, you might do a period or two to start preparing for those guys. So I think the development of Will Levis moving forward right now is most crucial for this team in this week.
Yeah, I would like to see it first of all, because that is what Callahan said. They're going to start putting in some game work prep. So we'll see if any of those guys are out here that maybe have not been out here in the last few weeks, right? Yeah. It would be good to see a Chidobe Awuzie. It would be good to see, I know D-Hop might not even be back for the first game. They're hoping he is. But just some of those guys that we haven't seen a lot of. And then some of those injury guys, Josh Wiley. I know had the concussion. Will he be back? I think it's important for him to continue to kind of build on his camp. So it'll be interesting out here today. Kyle Phillips, we don't know how serious that hamstring injury is, and it doesn't look like it's trending in the right direction.
Really? I think the Kyle Phillips days are numbered in Tennessee.
I think they might be too. Yep. Jim Wyatt said yesterday on 3HL too, real quick, guys, that Don asked him specifically who might be in trouble of making the cut. He didn't even want to name because he didn't want to necessarily put it out there before it's out there. So he seems to be there's 3 guys that he's looking at that might not. God. That we know that we're used to here.
That sucks.
Our question of the morning from a spirited conversation earlier in the show, do you like NFL Red Zone? The answers are love it, hate it, or indifferent. Brent Doherty has chimed in, the mayor. Whenever the mayor gets in our mentions, we always bring it up. Says, Ramon and Kayla are crazy. NFL Red Zone is football crack.
And that's good because I don't smoke it. So, perfect. Yeah, baby!
Mayor!
Are you saying that I do?
Radio station. Radio
you don't
station
know?
crackhead.
You don't know if I smoke crack or not?
You smoke crack, don't you?
You smoke crack, don't you?
All right, well,
about to fall out of my chair.
We'll try to bounce back from that when we come back. 615-737-1045. 54% says they love it.
Goodness.
Only 20% says they hate it. That's crazy. Coming up, is the Will Levis-led Titans offense on schedule? What is your confidence level in the quarterback, and has it changed since training camp started? We'll tell you next.
Hey, do you suffer from pain from arthritis? If you do, you know it's just awful. Bone on bone, constant pain. No one wants to deal with that. It really robs you of so much of the stuff that you love to do, but there are effective ways to deal with that pain. And I'm not talking about drugs or surgery. Hey, it's Kayla Anderson. Listen, there are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. And the place to go is QC Kinetics. We've talked about it before, and it's all true. QC Kinetics is using cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties. That actually revitalizes your joints so you can move again pain-free. And if you're living with chronic pain from an injury, let's say an old injury that pops up all the time, or arthritis, you need to know steroids and surgery and pain pills are no longer your only option. Learn how QC Kinetics can use advanced regenerative medicine that can treat pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief that everybody wants with no downtime. So go ahead and give our friends at QC Kinetics a call. They are the future of medicine, and you can call them now for a free consultation. That's right, free consultation at 615-249-4025. That's 615-249-4024 in Nashville, Clarksville, and Murfreesboro. So good.
All right, KW continues live from Tennessee Titans training camp, Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, where we talked to you this morning. 615-737-1045 is our number with Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. I'm Will Bowling. Has your confidence level in Will Levis changed at all during training camp? Is the offense on schedule to be ready for week 1 against the Chicago Bears in 2.5 weeks?
Not yet, because this is just so much incompletion to it.
Are they on schedule, though?
Are they on schedule?
Not are they ready or not now. I don't expect them to be ready now. Are they on schedule to be ready by week 1?
I got to give you, they're on schedule. They're on schedule. There's a few questions I have about the participation of all things included, and maybe this week we'll get those answers. I think it's somewhat premature, or I think it's flagrant to say they're not on schedule. There's been a lot of development. We found out who's going to be the right guard, right tackle, I think, for the most part, right? We found out that you got a weapon in Jaquan Jackson. That's beautiful, too. We found out how the running backs can pair together with one another. We've seen the operation of the offense where it's going to keep the ball in front of you and take your shots at times. What we don't know is, what does it look like with D-Hop? DeAndre Hopkins consistently? What does it look like with Tyler Boyd consistently? What does it look like as far as how Calvin Ridley is going to be using this offense? So I think when we're out here, we're getting a small sample size of what's their basic offense. So he's on schedule. Will Levis doesn't hurt my feelings when it comes down to thinking, is he good enough to be an NFL quarterback? He's good enough to be an NFL starting caliber quarterback. It comes down to week 1, his delivery and distribution of the ball, and his command of this team for me. So that's my only concern, is I don't know what that looks like for him in year 2, to where he's going to be an opening day starter for this team.
Yeah, I think they're on track, although I think last week they would have liked to end joint practices in a little bit more of a high note, because then the starters didn't go out there and get to play either on Saturday. So you it left a bit of a sour taste in their mouths, probably.
Incompletion.
A little incompletion,
Yeah.
No pun intended. But yeah,
More like intercept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that this is why this week is so important, guys, because I believe you're not only kind of trying to bounce back from last week and learn from those mistakes that we've been mentioning, that possibly the offense had a little bit more of that last week against the Seahawks than the defense did. But this is the week to get back to it, and knowing you're going to play on Saturday or Sunday, knowing that you're going to have majority of your starters now in the starting roles, and you want to be able to go in with some momentum to New Orleans. Plus, that's the first game on the road for this team in live action that we've seen this season. So I think this week of practice, Ramon, and I don't know if you had those situations in the past where maybe you had a bad week or a bad game week, and you came back and the next week you just felt like things were back on path.
Yeah, it's something just dawned on me, too. You mentioned that game on Sunday. I knew the game was on Sunday, but also thinking about last week, this week is dress rehearsal, and there's no other way to think about it, too, because you know why? Today is Wednesday. Wednesday is a reset of a new week. They'll do an install today. Tomorrow will be very situational, and Friday will be a day. That just dawned on me.
So Nick Holtz talked about that yesterday when he spoke with the media. The Titans offensive coordinator was asked about the procedure of this week versus the last 2 preseason games. That's exactly what he said. Said that this will really be the first time they go through a typical game week of installing things on Wednesday, taking a look at plays that Will Levis likes or doesn't like. This was Nick Holtz yesterday talking about that process and how him and Levis are starting to see the same picture.
We've really already started that with him. You know, he kind of, in the middle of training camp, we kind of said, all right, tell us the things you're the most comfortable with. Okay, I feel against every coverage, I know where to go with the ball on play A, B, C, D. These ones I don't feel as good about. And then, then for that conversation already started, okay, why don't you feel good about it? Okay, it's man, I don't love this answer versus man. So we've kind of gone through that list already. And then he came in yesterday and we were kind of just sitting around and he had already started his own thoughts on the Saints. So Brian and I were sitting there and Bo and the rest of the crew, and then he comes in and gave us his list. And we the good thing about it is he saw a lot of the same things. We're already seeing it similar. So he's like, I like these 4 plays, and they're like, oh, we got those 4 already. These are in. So it's started, and then it'll just kind of keep growing from there.
Guys, I think it's hard to really know if this offense is on schedule or not because they've not had two of their top 3 wide receivers for the better part of the last 2 weeks, and DeAndre Hopkins and Tyler Boyd. So for me, I don't think that affects week 1 in Chicago because DeAndre Hopkins doesn't need a lot of practice time on the field with Will Levis. I think Calvin Ridley does.
Yeah.
I think Boyd does. Tyler has been more available than DeAndre through this point of training camp, but for me, I don't know what this offense is going to look like week 1 in Chicago. I think they could come out and Will Levis could set the world on fire. Wouldn't shock me. I think they could come out and not be able to protect Levis, and they could really struggle week 1. I think everything is kind of on the table for this offense simply with their lack of receiver health at the ones level through camp. I'm not overly concerned, though, to be honest with you.
I think we've seen what the running backs are going to be. I think we're confident in that at least, that, okay, you know what that and know what the role is going to be for them. For the wide receivers, not worried about DeAndre Hopkins, actually not worried about Tyler Boyd either. I think Tyler Boyd, what he has a benefit of, he's already played in this offense, and he came in from the get-go, and we kind of knew he knew what he was doing, and he's helped Will Levis, I think, a lot with the offense as well. So that doesn't worry me. It's the Ridley Will Levis continuing to try to find that time. There was a time where I feel like they were starting to get it together, but then we saw it fall apart a little bit. So that's why I said this week could be really big for their connection too, and finding that timing and kind of building off of that. But yeah, I thought that answer was awesome by Nick Holtz. I thought that was really a good thing to hear, that Will Levis is like, okay, this is what I'm liking. Without him even saying anything, because I remember at the beginning of training camp, they said, guys, we're going to ask him things that you like, things you don't like, and now they're coming back full circle, and it looks like there are things that they are checking in with in terms of what he's liked and what he hasn't.
Nick Holtz also spoke about the connection between Will Levis and Calvin Ridley, an ongoing storyline over the last week, as those two did not have the best 2 days against the Seattle Seahawks defense and a couple of very good corners. This was Holtz yesterday.
There's a little bit of not bad luck, but there was a couple ones where, like against Seattle, we ended up having, he was kind of running this like bench takeoff thing, and it's going to be wide open, and he kind of gets grabbed, so he kind of stops running, and then it's like, so there's a little bit of that of, oh, we would have it, but there's no really replacement for actually completing that ball. It's not like we can all keep sitting here and say it'll happen. So I think it's going to come with reps. I think there's in some days they've had really good days, and there's times where they've both been at fault. Each guy said, oh, shoot, he's got to do it better. And it just kind of comes with time, and we're really not concerned about it from a production standpoint.
I think what this staff might be learning as well, as Teron Davenport of ESPN tweeted out last week, they're going to have to get creative to avoid Ridley being pressed at the line of scrimmage by a guy like Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, because those are handsy, physical, in-your-face, smelling the flavor of your breath mint defenders. and the Titans see that in their own defense as well, but you're seeing that in ones, right? Like, they've not had Chidobe Awuzie and L'Jarius Sneed to practice against. Calvin Ridley's been battling with Trey Avery. And no disrespect to Trey Avery, but there was a different level that went up from the Seattle defense. The Titans offense did not match that level for me when the ones were on the field, with the exception of some 7-on-7 and red zone and one-on-one work. So for me at this point, what is now the corresponding move where Nick Holtz and Brian Callahan and Bo Hardiger are looking at this install saying, all right, how do we get Calvin Ridley in motion? How do we move things around? How can we set up a pick route to where you're going to run a corner and the guy on your outside is going to run a slant, and you're coming in from the outside and you might get free to the boundary against man coverage? I think that's now the next step that this offense is going to have to take, because, if Ridley is making all this money, and as you guys have both said, he's going to be expected to put up big numbers, and he's going to be schemed open. This offense is going to go into meeting rooms saying, all right, how do we get Calvin open this week? And that's going to be a big part of it.
A beautiful thing about all of that, too, and listening to Coach Nick Holtz was this for me. his transparency and honesty. He said, and that connection hasn't been that great. And he said it's not like it's just going to happen. We got to work and figure out ways to make it happen. I don't know if I've heard more transparency given from a staff than this one so far, man. And I love it because you're getting the answers to what they're thinking and what their demands will be moving forward. It's going to be super important for them to be in a position to where they figured this thing out. And the better thing about going into a simulated game week is this also. The wide receivers can also say what they do and don't like too.
Right.
You really somewhat consolidate what your game plan is going to be like. The playbook is huge as ever. And at some point, Will Levis has to go to his guys and say, what do you like and what you don't like? How do we get you the ball? This is your play. This is not your play. Expect this on this type of play. And I think it comes down to the workmanship of having a quarterback that's going to be a high communicator with his squad and understanding these are the plays that we like. A playbook throughout the course of the season might have 5 runs in different variations. It's going to have your 3-step drops, your 5-step drops, your play actions. Like, that's a small window of what's going to work. And I think in these training camp sessions, you as a coach want to throw everything at them, and at some point there's a drawback into what we're good at, and that's where this group of wide receivers got to get on the same page with Will Levis. And I think it's also more important for Will Levis to figure out what his guys are going to like, because I think the way it's set up for a guy like Levis and his wide receiver core, it will probably be, at this point, unless they get it figured out, a D-Hop and Levis conversation more than anybody else, and that's what you don't want. These receivers are the types of guys I think that want the ball. Calvin really wants the ball. He said that earlier in this offseason, so it's super important for Will Levis to cater to him. Again, the old conversation is between two different groups. Is it the quarterback or the coach, right? Bill versus Brady. And does a quarterback make the wide receivers, or the wide receivers make the quarterback? They got to get on the same page and figuring out what's what. Consolidate what's working. As we said earlier when Denard Wilson was speaking about Jalen Harrell, keep it simple. What do you absolutely want on game day? And let's continue to just do those things. That's what they have to figure out. If it is, more motions for a guy like Calvin Ridley, we might not see him practicing just as much as the other guys, because you don't want that wear and tear on him over the course of the week.
100%.
There's a lot of that has to go on, because he's a weapon. We've seen him be a weapon in numerous places in Atlanta and with the Jaguars last year. He's capable. And the other thing is this, too. I think Calvin really became more of a hot commodity towards the later part of the season, and that's not a bad thing either. So if he is off to a slow start because they're figuring this out, wasn't it his first year with Trevor Lawrence last year also?
Yeah.
And he emerged as the number one as far as yards go.
Yeah, over 1,000.
So, yeah,
1,000.
this is an ever-growing relationship. And one thing you want to be doing, as coaches always say, it's like the takeoff of a plane. You want to be ascending. You don't want to be like a helicopter and immediately going up to 1,000 feet in the air, and the next thing you know, you drop out. That was traumatic as hell right there.
Yeah, wow.
But what I'm saying is, I'll appreciate if he does work his way into working with Calvin. But they got to be very transparent and probably have some hard conversations, too. Like, hey, I'll say this, and you sucked on this route to me. I don't want that. And it may be not that harsh of a conversation, but there has to be some clarity on what works for him, because Will Levis is on the clock, too.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing we've learned about Calvin Ridley and Will Levis. Will Levis, we saw it from last year, right, with DeAndre Hopkins. He was not afraid to kind of vocalize situations sometimes with his veteran wide receiver, and he was a rookie, like, fresh off the bench. And DeAndre Hopkins said at the beginning of OTAs this year, he really respected Will Levis for doing that. And so I think we do see that kind of personality. Will Levis is going to tell you what he likes and what he doesn't like, and I think Calvin Ridley is going to tell you what works and doesn't work. So I would, from what I've heard from both of them, assume they have that good communication, but it's just constantly working at that and being able to see it on the field. And we've seen a lot of camp kind of working on short intermediate passes, and we haven't seen even a lot of those.
Catching a rhythm,
right? And that's part of the development or part of the process they have set for Will Levis here. So it is kind of hard. We don't see everything. Yeah. So to say that, like, they're not going to continue to work on that is ridiculous. We know they are.
My bad, I didn't mean to cut you. I'm just glad Nick Holt said, we can't just expect this to work.
No.
We have to work at it.
Right.
Not immediately.
Exactly.
And that is probably about as much truth as you need from a coach to say, we have to actually work at making this connect.
I'm not worried about Ridley and Levis at all.
No, they'll get it.
I don't blame anyone for having a little bit of apprehension after last week, but it is not high on my list of concerns or questions. I think concerns is an unfair word this early in the process. I think question marks is a better way to characterize just evaluating this part of preseason and camp. Charles on Twitter asks us, at Ramon Kayla Will, if it came down to keeping Traylon Burks or Nick Westbrook-Akine on the roster, who are you going with? I would tell you, Charles, that I don't. Not that I think. They're not going to have to choose.
No.
They will both make the roster.
Correct.
I would say they're both in permanent ink on the 53-man roster right now, and there's no doubt about it.
No.
And I don't think, to your point,
good.
that they have a set number of players at each position. Coach Brian Callahan's just said that.
Yeah.
If they got to keep 7 wide receivers on the active roster, I think they'll do it.
Yeah.
I think that is one philosophy we've learned this week, is that this team wants to evaluate not just value positionally, but just they will have a process to evaluate a defensive lineman versus a tight end, and an extra corner versus a wide receiver. They don't want to get in the business of having quotas for certain positions. You kind of box yourself into a corner living that life. So, no, they're not going to have to choose. Both those guys are already on the roster.
And that might come down to this week if they decide, hey, let's keep 4 tight ends. Oh, no, wait, let's possibly keep 4 running backs, which I don't think will happen. But, you got to put in the case when you see Hassan being the guy on special teams and Julius being more of that running back.
Yeah, there are 5 locks at wide receiver. Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, Traylon Burks, Nick Westbrook-Akine. There's probably 1.5 spots up for grabs there. Definitely a 6th guy, and then maybe a 7th.
Sure.
But that also depends on if Keiris Jackson and Kyle Phillips are healthy, because I think if Keiris Jackson is available, he's on the roster. If not, then it's probably Jaquan Jackson and Mason Kinsey.
Can you cut Mason Kinsey and put him on the practice squad?
I think so.
You can.
I don't think anybody would snatch him, but, I mean, as productive as he has been through camp, the Seahawks might want him as much as he was succeeding against them in one-on-ones last week.
And he's always been really productive at camp. I'll give him that. I mean, honestly, he sticks out every preseason and during camp, and he ends up, helping the scout team every
what
year.
happens in week 1? Big dogs come to play.
And that's why you continue to make that practice squad.
3 seasons. Preseason, the regular season's a different level, and then postseason's we saw that in 2021. Way different level.
That's why I love it, because it's like you can play against him every week out here practice, and he'll get you ready, right? He'll give you that competition.
Show me regular season Mason.
Another question on YouTube asks about Colton Dowell, asking, is he still hurt, and could he possibly be practice squad once healthy? He will start on IR to begin the season, barring a drastic change. And new rule, again, says that you can, or PUP versus IR, kind of the intricacies of that, but he will be on one of those lists to start the year and can be activated later in the season as he still gets healthy. So still on that PUP list.
Yeah, it's good to see him out here, though, at least, watch him practice and everything, which they have encouraged all the guys to do if they can.
Coming up, there was a fascinating ploy for a head coach at a Power 5 a head coach at a Power 4 conference that's still getting used to try to get his fans to show up to football games. We have the audio for you next.
I see 4 Broncos all over the road, and they're all different. I just drove one this past week, okay? The Wild Tracks version of it, man. They got the soft top, hard tops, the Big Bend, heritage style with the white tops or the black diamond. And for you speed people out there, the Raptor. They even have the smaller Bronco Sports. There's so many option color combinations and so many different packages and trim levels. That's why the Two Rivers Ford team invites you to get to know the Ford Bronco like they did me last week. This is an open invite. You don't need to be in the market for a vehicle. The Two Rivers Ford team has a Bronco expert on hand to introduce you to the Ford Bronco, answer your questions, let you test drive, and show you the on-road and off-road capabilities, the technology, and the accessories. And remember, the Two Rivers Ford team doesn't work on commission. They're there to educate you and answer your question and introduce you to a really cool vehicle that you might not know a lot about. That's one of the reasons people love doing business with Two Rivers Ford and why they're the South's most trusted Ford dealer. So go see my friends at Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, just 7 miles east of the airport, and get to know the Ford Bronco. Two Rivers Ford is your Ford Bronco headquarters.
You ever wonder why so many pro athletes go and use stem cell therapy? Because it works. I'm Ron Slade, retired 14-year pro basketball player, and I needed to get this done. After I went through my entire career riddled with injuries, I needed therapy. So I went to Kellum Stem Cell Institute out in Franklin. Why? Because they're the stem cell specialists. They can be yours too. They're the stem cell specialists of the Tennessee Titans. You know why? Because it works.
Make an appointment today with Kellum Stem Cell Institute.
Wrapping up hour number 3 on RKW. Rhett Bryant will join us in 10 minutes. Getting you ready for practice today at 10 o'clock. The Buck Rising Show has you covered. They've got an A-lister on this morning, guys. On the Buck Rising Show, did you guys see who's on?
No.
Ryan Stonehouse.
Big Stoney.
Oh, Stoney.
Will be on the Buck Rising Show.
Who we could see a little bit this Sunday.
He is so hilarious,
He's
man.
great.
By the way, I've had
king.
a couple exchanges with him on the sideline. He's a funny dude, man.
So
like Stoney.
I thought this was interesting. Every time Eli Drinkwitz talks, usually I shake my head in disgust. But this time, this is actually kind of funny. Eli Drinkwitz talking about how he will essentially judge his fan base if they don't sell more tickets to football games. Take a listen to this.
But our challenge is we need to sell out this first game. All right, we're a top 11 program in the country coming off a Cotton Bowl win, and in my opinion, if we don't sell out the first game, then that shows me that we're not where we want to be as a fan base yet. Okay, I mean that's just the reality of it. Don't sit on the sideline and wait. Well, it's got to be this game. No, it doesn't. Come watch this team and be excited about this team and embrace this team. And the same challenge that I have for our players is let's have a 1-0 mindset. Let's try to be a 1-0 team and be a 1-0 fan base. Don't get excited about the game in November after the bye week. Like, I don't know what that game's going to look like. I know this week next week versus Murray State's the most important game we have. And we need to sell it out because we need to show the rest of the country that we're serious about our program.
I like it.
Wow.
Good for you, Eli Drinkwitz. He's right. Don't wait until, I mean, they don't even have like an entertaining home game this year in Como, by the way. I mean, their home schedule, they have Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt, Auburn, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. That is the home game slate this year in Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah, I don't totally disagree with it, but I don't know what it is about Eli Drinkwitz's tone or just the way he presents things. Like, as a fan, I'm like, okay, man, I'm not your players. Like, don't coach me up as a fan on, what I should be attending and when I should be attending it. I agree. Yeah. You cannot, as a fan base, if you want to show up and show out, you can't always just pick and choose. I see it in Tennessee all the time. Preseason games, non-conference games. Y'all are stacking that place.
Consistently sold out.
Like, it's awesome for those games that may not be meaningful, and then when it's meaningful, they're there too. So I agree, you do need to have that as a fan base, but what actually really brings that is consistency in winning. And I know that they did it last year, but you have to consistently start building that and putting a lot of emphasis into it. I don't necessarily want to hear Eli Drinkwitz telling me what games I need to come to or which ones I don't.
What do you think the cheapest ticket is for Missouri-Murray State on the secondary market?
Secondary market, I'm going to go...
This is, again, 11-win team last year.
50.
Won the Cotton Bowl.
$34.
$50.
Both of you are way too high.
Real $12.
$15.
Oh,
that is the get-in price for Murray State, Missouri. That's pretty bad, Missouri fans. You got to be better than that.
You know what they're trying to do?
Amy Wells, come defend your program for us.
Yeah. They're also trying to tiger stripe this thing, too. You see that? August
cool.
29th is tiger stripe versus Murray State. Why are you tiger striping against Murray State? You do these types of things.
Well, because tickets are $15. They want to get people to go and be a part of the stripes.
I'm not even mad at Drinkwitz for this. It to me says a lot about his fan base in the sense of the folks that go to games for that program. Because here's what he's also saying too: if he has another good year and somebody come calling, he may leave because of that fan base support. Like, coaches love to see that that stadium packed out. To me, I think it's a bigger warning shot to the folks that are in his building.
Yeah.
More than anything, like, y'all better figure this crap out before I look elsewhere, because Arkansas supports is all I'm telling you.
I know.
Yeah, that's tough. I hate that they got to have that type of. Can you imagine what that game versus Vanderbilt is going to look like on September 21st?
Well, it's an SEC game, though. I mean, it'd probably be sell more tickets to that than Murray State game.
You know what? I hope he's also not counting this Boston College as a dub either. Boston College plays good ball.
I was just going to say that. I don't know if I would just automatically.
They do.
Yeah, I wouldn't automatically.
I don't think they were very good last year, were they?
All right.
I mean, I know it's not a bad program, but they have not been exactly a powerhouse over the last couple of seasons.
And no offense against Missouri, because there are a lot of great programs there.
7-6.
I still kind of think of them as a Big 12 team. Like I don't know if
I
they
think they're
ever.
SEC by this point.
I don't know if I've ever kind of accepted them as an SEC school.
I mean, it took me a couple of years, but I mean, at this point, like them and A&M, like they're in.
They had a good run in the
A&M's
East.
different though. It's
They
Texas.
did. Eli Drinkwitz begging his fan base to come out is not okay, though.
But that's the thing. It's another level. When the SEC, you guys expect it to be a different level, and it's not like that in other conferences necessarily.
It's not an SEC fan base.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying. I don't know.
I've gotten used to them in the conference,
that.
but I mean, there are a lot of fan bases in the SEC that aren't, SEC caliber fan bases. There are a couple of them, but I don't know. Interesting. They're going to be good. I mean, they'll be really good.
Well,
Brady Cook is
should
getting ready
allow.
for his 18th season as the quarterback at Missouri. So.
How old is he? 25?
He's 35, yeah. He's been there
He's 35.
Been there since the Clinton
Going on
administration. Coming up, Rhett Bryan joins us. Titans practice getting started in an hour. We'll preview who most needs a big week and get all the latest with Rhett coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster here for Wesley Mortgage. I'm going to hand out the website right now, man, because there's a lot of good stuff on the site. It's whywesley.com. A lot of the good things at Wesley Mortgage starts with the owner, Chuck McDowell, man, who's a local Nashville native. He cares about this community and is proud to serve it. Chuck, he reinvests in the people and the place that make Nashville such a wonderful place. While other mortgage companies are downsizing, Chuck McDowell and the Wesley Mortgage team are rapidly expanding in Nashville, keeping people working in the career that they love, and they love to have you join their team. Chuck and the leadership team at Wesley Mortgage have a support system in place to help you succeed in the mortgage business, ensuring your loans close on time, making sure you get paid, and giving you back the time to build your business and bring back the fun to the mortgage profession. They have unique networking opportunities with the Tennessee Titans and the Music City Grand Prix that make closing deals and building relationships fun again. So, if you're in the mortgage industry, you're tired of the grind, just tired of the pressure, and tired of micromanaging everything to make sure your clients get handled correctly, then you owe it to yourself to go to whywesley.com today for an
It's going on at 9 o'clock. Good morning. Time flying by from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park for Titans training camp. I am Robert Walsh. Titans coordinators spoke to the media yesterday. Defensive coordinator Denard Wilson spoke about the pass rush and had this to say about 7th-round rookie Jalen Harrell.
Very smart player. Obviously, coming up, high school, he played the Mike position. So for him, it's been easy to pick up the position, but he's a physical guy. He's tough. He's extremely smart. He can play both Sam and rush. And then, last week against Seattle, you seen him, he can win on the edge.
The 49ers and wide receiver Brandon Ayuk had another meeting yesterday, and talks continue to progress towards a long-term contract extension. There has been movement on a deal, but still some minor details that need to be ironed out with ownership approval. And if you watched Hard Knocks, we learned the Bears also tried to trade for Matt Judon, had a trade in place, offered a 3rd-round pick just like Atlanta. General manager Ryan Poles later explained that he didn't want to put the team in a position where they could get the player but couldn't finalize a contract. For your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Would you look at the time, the 4th quarter of the show, 4th hour already here. 4's up. Unless you're driving, let's please keep it between the navigational beacons. This is Ramon, Kayla, and Will broadcasting live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, RKW. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh, and Kirby Allen. Kirby, Reed Smith back in Midtown. And Rhett Bryan sitting down at the table to join us here on this fine football weather Wednesday. Rhett, good morning.
Fine football. I mean, this is like a taste of fall. Like driving in this morning, that sunrise and the nip in the air. Oh my.
It's very nice.
Can we have more of this, please?
I know. And I was not complaining, but I was chilly this morning. That's why I'm wearing the sweatshirt. But it's going to feel really good in an hour when we're out there watching practice.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
going to be perfect
67 degrees right now, about 71 at start of practice, and a little warmer tomorrow, but nothing like what we've seen a few of these days out here. So it is welcome.
This is the nicest camp practice day that I can remember.
It is, yeah. There's no back sweat.
I've not been doing this that long, but still.
There's no back sweat. That's true.
I had that last week.
That is true.
So you are speaking my language.
Yes,
we
100%.
had a couple in mandatory minicamp or OTAs too, I think, where we were like, is this real?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big dress rehearsal week this week, Red. I mean, you essentially are simulating a Sunday game right now, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what the product is going to look like.
I think it's interesting, too, continuing with the line of transparency that Brian Callahan has offered publicly and certainly to the media. He on the Brian Callahan show, first one on Titans Radio, Farm Bureau Health Plan sponsor, Monday night. It was a good show. You should tune in Monday nights at 6. Amy Wells and Mike Keith host that, and great questions, great answers. And one of them was, why are you going to have the starters play 3-ish series? And, offensively, he's speaking about, listen, we've got to have every rep that we can get to get ready. This is, to your point, Ramon, a warm-up for Chicago 2 weeks after Sunday. And, he talked about his experience in the 5 years he was with the Bengals, and how Joe Burrow didn't play a whole lot and would get dinged up, and so he thinks that teams will start to lean back towards playing starters a little more in the preseason because of that, and in the last preseason game. I think the other thing to glean from Monday night's coach's show is Amy Wells asked him about how set is the starting 5. He said from center to left it's set. On the right, he said Dylan Radins and NPF, and he said Dylan Radins would have to have something horrific happen this week or in New Orleans Sunday for that to change.
Yeah. What I'm interested in also, because New Orleans is it's a different animal in that dome, man. I wonder what their pre-snap cadence is going to look like. Is Will Levis going to be vocal? Will it be a knee kick from him? Will there be a tap? Like, what does Lloyd Cushenberry prefer when it comes down to the snap count on the road? Because you immediately have that this weekend and opening weekend in Chicago.
Yeah, and I think probably in the days when we haven't been out here and it's been closed, they've worked on some of those kinds of things and maybe simulating noise through the giant speakers they roll out here to play music throughout practice. But you can only simulate that so much. You got to kind of go through it, right?
Yeah.
I think the good thing is so many of the players on this roster have come from big programs where the moment isn't too big for them. They've been in front of thousands and thousands of fans in college and where it's been loud and loud in an environment. I mean, I just think about, how last week we were talking about the back half of the roster and in particular the third day of the draft this year. Like Jalen Harrell, who just put on a clinic last Saturday night, 18 snaps. It's less than 50% of the defensive snaps, 2 quarterback sacks, 2 tackles for loss, a forced fumble. But he came from Michigan.
Yeah.
He was an integral part in them winning the national championship. He was one of those 18 guys that went through the draft process. And so when you're talking about a guy in the 7th round that's doing that, so you have a lot of guys who have played in big situations, but you still need those reps. You still need that.
You remember the draft process we had this year, man. You just never know what year is going to be what, right? Like, what's the storyline of this year? We heard all pre-draft, and I think it's probably held true, but not here in Nashville for that matter, but the back end of the draft. You remember that conversation?
Yes.
We need to be top-heavy because we don't know what kind of players are going to be on the back end. And Rhett, from pick 5, 6, the 2 6s and the 7s, or the 2 7s and the 6, they have all answered the call in training camp so far, right?
Yeah.
They really have, man. And I forget we had that conversation about the front end of this draft versus the back end. Jalen Harrell is wrecking that right now.
Yeah, as Coach Mack says, he's not an empty chair, right?
Yeah.
And the other part of it, again, I give so much credit to Rand Carthon and his scouting staff and scouting department in this because Rand told us numerous times in the offseason, hey, listen, football character's huge. How much do you love the game? That's the first thing to check off the box. Then the production, obviously the measurables, the testing, the interviews, all of those things. And, I think there's a lot of guys that can help this team that were drafted in the third day.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I think it's, I'm excited because we get to wrap up the preseason Sunday in New Orleans, and I think they're trending in the right way. And, it's just a big lead up to obviously one giant roster cut. And I think the thing that Brian Callahan is dreading the most is, the cuts themselves, because you've developed relationships with these guys for the last several months and gotten to know them a little bit and maybe met their family out here at practice, and to know that, hey, this audition is not just for us, it's for the other 31.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be the hardest part for him, because even the guys who, some of these younger fellas, hey, I've made the final 53. It's like, well, wait a minute. Let's see what the 53 looks like the week of September the 8th going into that game, because it changes.
Who are some of those guys that are towards the bottom fighting for that spot? Because we don't know how many they're going to keep in certain positions, because he just said this week that it's not necessarily about the numbers at each position. It's about the talent. And
and what their attributes are. Yes,
right, exactly.
Yes. Well, and we use that on the latest OTP with Mike and Amy about, say, Hassan Haskins. It would look like you would have kept a 4th running back, but he may be your best special teams guy. That's actually what his role is outside of his designated position of skill that he plays. To your point.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of interesting positions to consider in all of this. James Williams in the bottom part of that linebacking core, but again, special teams is what he's learning and starting to already excel at. And then when you think about what happens with the tight end group? Because David Martin Robinson keeps showing up. And it's unfortunate that Josh Wiley is in concussion protocol. And, they're wanting some bigger things out of him. Chig Okonkwo is clearly the leader in the clubhouse with that. So, yeah, you're right. It's beyond just a straight-up numbers game positionally defined by position. So that's the intriguing part about all of this. But it begins today with, the first of 2 padded practices. We're coming down to the end of the stretch of training camp. And then the rest is, after Sunday afternoon, it's flipped to the regular season. Make cuts, and then here we go.
Rhett, I don't remember a time, and part of it is because there is so much roster turnover on this team, but I don't remember a training camp where an entire draft class had this big of an early impact. I mean, we're talking about earlier this morning, we asked the question, which Titans rookie outside of the top 2 picks will have the biggest impact this season? I think you could make the argument for 3 or 4 different options.
You could make the argument for Jarvis Brownlee. You could make the argument for Jaquan Jackson. You could make the argument for Jalen Harrell.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have it's a multiple choice answer. Absolutely, it is. Which is what a fantastic problem that is, right?
What does that select all that apply?
Yeah, that's right. Right. Select all that apply.
Yeah.
And going back to what you said a minute ago about us talking about the draft process going into this year. By the way, Dane Brugler dropped his top 50 sneak peek.
Yeah.
And it is loaded with defensive backs. It's loaded with, it's a very rich class early on in corners and DBs.
Wow.
And the thing that he put as a footnote, he said it's the first time I can remember in maybe ever there wasn't an Alabama prospect in the top 50.
No way.
In his early top 50.
Not even a quarterback?
Wow.
No, sir.
Dang.
No, sir.
I'm shocked by that.
And he prefaced it by saying, now, look, I may be higher on some guys in this 50 than others.
Sure.
But I found that interesting.
And they might have the best, sophomore in the country in Caden Proctor, who might be a top 5 pick in what we're looking
Next
at 2026.
year. Right.
Sometimes it does work out that way, but that is really interesting.
Yep.
Wow. Rhett Bryan with us here at the table. We'll continue the Titans discussion with him at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park when we come back. What Rhett is watching for today and the players who most desperately need a big day on Sunday in the Dome Sweet Dome of New Orleans, Louisiana. That's next with Rhett Bryan.
It's Ramon Foster for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, letting you know, man, summer is over. Well, it's fall, whatever you want to call it. The kids are back in school. But even though the kids are back in school, you can leave the homework to Hiller. This month, enjoy back-to-school savings like $99 drain cleaning. You can get $500 off select high-efficiency HVAC systems and new tankless water heaters. If you hadn't tested that, man, please go check those out. Those are so clutch. You can also get $1,000 off whole home generators. For more details about all the offers and specials and what Hiller can do for you, visit happyhiller.com for details.
RKW, Ramon, Kayla, and Will broadcasting live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Should we tell the people?
Go! Come on, Ramon! You got it! You got it! It's not a sprint; it's a marathon.
This is a sprint because we're back on the air. Ramon Foster gracing us with his presence again.
It's
For
tricky.
a minute there, the R in
Good
RKW was
Run to
Right.
the D, to the M,
Yes.
to the C.
This song, I always think of the PlayStation 2 game, SS Tricky. It was like
Okay.
a snowboarding game. You could do flips and stuff. And they would play this song once you hit like three runs in a row. Once you heard that song, you knew you were hitting it.
This just reminds me of being in middle school because, I mean, that's first generation rap there.
It is absolutely right. It was a breakthrough right there.
Back when your hair was kind of curly.
I mean,
anyway.
Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Melly Mel, golly, I don't know. There was all these back there. Big Daddy Kane. Anyway.
There were some good ones, though, that have
Run
stuck
DMC,
around.
obviously.
Run
The
DMC.
Fat Boys. We were talking about the Fat Boys. We were talking about the Fat Boys the other day in the booth.
Absolutely.
Stick 'em. Stick 'em, stick 'em.
The Disorderlies movies they had, I used to always love
Disorderlies,
watching that. You remember that?
I was
indeed.
I was gonna say, should we tell the people who is on the show tomorrow?
Ooh, a tease.
Wait. Oh, yeah.
At 9:30.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Ramon's like, what?
That's right.
Run DMC's coming on the show
to announce it. We've got a guy by the name of Brian Callahan. I think
9:30 tomorrow morning.
Hey,
Brian
let's do it.
the
Hey,
head coach.
That is right.
joins
I
the
think
show.
that'll work.
We've had the dad,
Right?
now we have the son. We had Bill a couple weeks ago.
I know.
Big coach and now head coach.
That's right.
Hey, that was big time. So.
Yeah.
We had the
Tomorrow,
old bull,
9:30.
now we want the young calf.
Bring us
One of
the
my-
fatted cow.
One of my favorite lines from Step Brothers. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Prepare ye the way for the head coach. Bill Callahan, John the Baptist
Yeah.
of the situation.
Oh boy! Hello.
The whole pool, now the young calf.
We have
what
another
a
surprise that
moment.
will also take place tomorrow, but
Oh, but we're not
that's-
gonna talk. We're not
yeah,
gonna give
we're
that
not
one away.
talking anymore about
No,
that.
no, we're
so.
good. That one, nobody needs to know about what might be happening
Nope.
also tomorrow.
Okay.
You just know you never know what
That's-
you're going to get on
We'll
this
just
show.
call that a super tease. You got
Right.
to tune in.
Who's going to show up? Who's to say? Who's
Yep.
to say? Rhett, the player that needs a big week the most. I feel like there is a lot of different directions you could take that. We
Sure.
had the discussion earlier in the show at 7:20, but
Would you discuss with me? Would you tell me what your answers were? Because I was actually working in the studio on some things, and I
Sure.
wasn't able to check that segment.
honestly, I said it was a tie between anyone who plays tackle and Rashad Weaver.
Okay, that's fair.
I just feel like last week you didn't see a swing tackle emerge after J.C. Latham and Nicholas Petit-Frere. And as Brian Callahan talks with you guys on the Brian Callahan Show with the media on Monday, or Sunday it was, about just the separation between the ones and the twos.
Right. And I feel like that's what John Ojukwu could be.
I agree.
I think that's what they want
I
him
agree.
to be. So yeah. All right. What was your answer, Ramon?
Mine was Weaver for this reason right here. Having a young guy that has a specialty and shows that he can get production in that, and Jalen Harrell puts pressure on the older guy who's trying to find his way. And I know the coaching staff like Rashad Weaver and all the things that he's done. I'm not saying this is a cut situation at all for him, but the pressure to perform gets heightened when you got a young fella coming in and doing that. I look at this rusher position almost like the third running back in a sense.
Okay.
To where if we can find a cheaper option, more skilled option that's giving us this type of production right now, I'd much rather go with the younger option.
Well, and to your point, this is why the Arden Key news from Jeffrey Simmons was so big, because it allows Jalen Harrell to be in that rotational spot and not put more on his plate until maybe he's ready. And I'm not saying he's not ready. I'm just saying, we need him to stack more days and performances like he did Saturday night at Nissan Stadium.
Because of Arden Key's situation, it has also complicated the place for Rashad Weaver. Honestly, he was so safe And Bert's bags over here, okay? Saving trash bags on the practice field.
He's trying to keep the practice surfaces from litter.
But and
nobody trashes Tennessee.
Nobody trashes Tennessee. But Rhett, we were having a conversation before the Arden Key news came out. They're gonna have to go find somebody, which means that all of your in-house guys are fine. Now, with knowing that Arden Key is going to get the lion's share of the reps and a starter, and you ain't got to go outside, like now they can focus more on Weaver and Jalen Harrell, so much so that I think pressure is a good thing. We may get a better version out of Rashad Weaver because of this moment right here. But the way rosters are made up, how would you look at saying, okay, this guy's a little bit cheaper, a little bit younger, has a high upside, whatever his ceiling is going to be, versus a guy that we've seen for at least a year with this new staff, right, as far as the GMs go, to watch the production of a young fella. Like, he's not rushing and playing like a young dude right now against the same Cowboys and Indians that Rashad Weaver's playing against. That's where, to me, like I said, I ain't saying you cut him, but it makes it a little bit more problematic if you're splitting hairs.
And Rashad knows the brevity of this. I mean, he's going into year 4, and yes, he's been through a coaching change, but so have a lot of his other teammates, and all those kinds of things. But yeah, I wouldn't disagree with your choice. What was yours, Kayla?
Yeah, and I just want to add to that too. I think Rashad has always kind of had it's the moments we've seen real high moments from him.
He's done it,
right?
And
We've
knows
seen
he
it.
can be
But
that good.
it's the consistency, and I think it's the mindset of just like not overthinking. I think a lot of times maybe that's his worst thing, or
the year Harold got
his worst
hurt, he
critic
had
sometimes.
4.5 or 5 sacks in the first 4 or 5 weeks. He was averaging 1 a game.
Exactly.
So he's done it.
Yeah, mine were just because of this wide receiver room and the parts that maybe a couple of them can play on special teams, like Mason Kinsey and Kieris Jackson, and I know Jaquan's stock has risen, and rightfully so. So I think he'll be a guy, but those two in particular, Kieris has that bruise now on his foot. Mason's kind of always proven he can do it in practice and training camp, but can he be that guy in an actual real life game? So that's kind of an interesting spot towards the bottom of the wide receiver room.
Depending on how many receivers they keep, and obviously we won't know until it's time to know. I think Mason Kinsey's making this roster.
I do too.
I do.
Okay.
I think he is.
Okay.
I think you obviously know who your first four are. The big 3, and NWI is right there with that.
Sure.
And then do they keep 6? Do they keep 7? How does that work out?
Right.
All right. So to answer your question, and I'm going with pass rusher, and I'm not going with Rashad Weaver, although that's an excellent answer. Mine's a little more outside the box because he's kind of the forgotten man, not only in this training camp and everything, but in the NFL, and that's Shane Ray.
Yes.
Shane Ray came here in rookie minicamp as an invite. And then, things were quiet. They came back, and all of a sudden, he's here. That guy has had success in this league. He has won a world championship with the Broncos. Then he had a really bad wrist injury, and he's been fighting to get his way back into the league since. In fact, he has not touched a regular season playing field in 6 years.
Jeez.
And I just wonder he's the guy that may need to put on the extra performance Sunday in New Orleans to latch on to a play. Because, again, after the pass rushers we mentioned, there's place there. There is. So he has a chance to earn himself a spot because in the cost of things, he's not going to cost you a ton. So I wonder about him because it's a very intriguing story.
Rhett Bryan here at the table with us live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Speaking of Jaquan Jackson, Rhett, we spoke earlier a bit this morning about what a role in the offense could look like for him this season. How much of his responsibilities do you feel will be divided up between being a special teams ace and being a return man first and foremost, or how big of a role can he have in this offense this season?
I think to start out, it's probably, if I'm carving up the pie, it's 70-30 for special teams things, and maybe 30's too generous. I don't know. But I'll say this. In some of the moments we have seen him, and even some things in here in practice, some of those jet sweeps, jet motions, fly sweeps, he can be a part of some things with his college teammate, Tajay Spears, in some crafty things that they can do. But I think certainly Jaquan, I think he's got a good ceiling, and he's already got a decent floor. The thing that continues to impress me about him is that the moment it doesn't seem to be too big for him at all. He and there's a maturity level, much like a Tajay was last year.
Yep.
And I think that somewhat speaks to the green wave of Tulane and kind of what they're churning out in some guys.
I was going to say, sorry, Ray, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
You, but I get so excited about this because I loved Tajay last year, and then he proved it on the field.
Yeah.
And Jaquan, as a 6th-round pick, he didn't get as much attention coming into this, but we heard Tajay Spears vouch for him. This man, it just seems like he keeps his head down and goes to work, and nothing's maybe too big for him, like in the moment. Yeah. I just feel like he's, like you said, he's such a pro. Like, what are they teaching him there?
It is.
I'm serious.
And it's such a compliment to him because it's much the way that Jalen Harrell has approached this draft process and this offseason. Yep. But he went to Michigan, right? And won the national championship.
Right. So that's kind of expected, right?
Yeah, right. But, I think that is, again, I go back to Rand Carthon and this scouting staff and the football operations as finding guys that work for your best 53.
Right.
And putting them in a position to succeed that, leans to their best attributes and their skill set. And, again, checking the box with football character. Do you love the game? There's a lot of these dudes, I'm like, he loves the game.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's not even, you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You can see it. You can feel it. You can see it, how they carry themselves, and then obviously what they put forth effort-wise.
Last week, man, and watching the development of this young man who's the back end of the draft too, James Williams.
Yeah.
Right? Like he has probably one of the highest ceilings of guys that you say, where did you find him from? Of almost anybody I've seen come into the league, right? That's like a 7th-round pick. Like Puka Nacua shocked the world with what he's capable of doing.
Yep.
Like if you get to the development side of him, like that could set you up for years to come when it comes to having an in-house guy that you know is going to deliver for you and your defense, man.
Who has already taken the initiative at the behest of Frank Bush, his position coach, and going to talk to Colt Anderson and start learning the trade of special teams. He took that and like, you know what? Yes, let's do that. And again, that speaks to the maturation level of James Williams because this is a guy that played at the University of Miami. This is a guy that was the #1 safety coming out of college. His recruitment year, he was a 5-star and could have gone anywhere in the world. And I think he was a top 15 prospect in that whole class.
It was.
So think about being used to being doted on or wanted and recruited and then the reality is you're 7th-round pick.
Yeah.
You're a few picks away from being undrafted. So reality check time is in.
Yeah.
But I go back to what I continue to mention about him and his mom tragically passed away when he was just a small kid. He's carried that with him. He's seen some stuff.
Yeah.
He and Jarvis Brownlee both are from the same area. They've seen some real life stuff that the average Joe maybe not have seen, and harshly, right?
Yeah.
And I think his mom, I think that carries with James Williams quite a bit.
Yep.
Much to the likewise nature with Tavondre Sweat, who is still blessed and has his mother, and bought her dream house.
That's
and
beautiful.
There's a stabilizing person, a rock in their foundation that relationship wise is in their family. But James Williams, I think they got something there. I do. And when you hear Frank Bush talk about it, you kind of hear him, spark up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, dude was a safety in college and was big enough to move to the next level of the defense. He's a big, and he hasn't really filled out yet.
No.
He's 241, I think.
Yeah.
And so, I just think there is I think there's a ceiling there. I do.
It's interesting, too. You're exactly right, by the way. He was the number 13 recruit in his high school class. You know who the number 5 recruit that year was?
Who?
J.C. Latham. What?
Jeez.
Bam.
Interesting, too. We talk a lot about.
It was right down the road in IMG Academy,
and
right?
he was at American Heritage. So we talk about, that's exactly where I was going
American
next.
Heritage.
Is having big school guys.
Remember FDIC.
James Williams has been a big school guy as well. American Heritage is one of the best high school football programs in the country. That's Isaiah McKenzie, Anthony Schwartz, Pat Surtain, Brian Burns, former Tennessee receiver Brandon Johnson was an American Heritage guy.
Yeah, there's a list there.
I think this staff, Rhett, has done an interesting and a really good job of identifying high-ceiling guys on day 3 of the draft. And it's one thing to get the Alabama tackle and the Texas defensive tackle. It's another to find the high-ceiling Michigan outside linebacker who's been a role player who can step right in and do a similar job, and a Michigan safety. And I liked what Denard Wilson said about Williams yesterday. Coach Mack has said it on this station. Frank Bush is to linebackers as Bill Callahan is to offensive linemen. And I think that Titans fans can feel really good about that position long term. It's going to take time to coach these guys up, but you've got as good of a teacher for inside linebackers as you have in Bill on the offensive side.
And let me say this. Tracy Rocker's no slouch on the D-line either.
No.
Like that's the thing I think that is a place that could pay some dividends is the carefully crafted and constructed coaching staff that both Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan worked together on. That collaborative word that came up so much. That's what a lot of that was and still continues to be.
Sure.
But to your point, and here's the thing, though, you still have to hit on those picks. You still have to hit on them. And so at some point, you can procure them and coach them all you want, but they have to go out on the playing field and do it.
Can I give you a headline that'll make you
Give me a
smile?
headline. Give me a headline.
This is from Colts-Bengals joint practices from Nate Atkins of the Indy Star. Throw the ball, bro. Anthony Richardson and the Colts offense struggled so much for so long against the Bengals that Cincinnati defenders voiced their annoyance just wanting him to actually throw the football.
The essence of Indianapolis.
What a shame.
Are we surprised? No.
I don't want that essence,
Are
right?
we surprised?
No, my brother.
I'm always going to hate on the division. I can't help it.
I'm sorry,
I can't help it.
I'll hold back on my
We
comments.
won't be wafting that.
Anthony Richardson, 3 of 10 to start the first practice against the Cincinnati Bengals.
I think the guy's got arm and talent. There's no question. But you go back to the tipping point and how many college starts that a quarterback has. I go back to some research I was looking at in the offseason. And when it's way under a certain median range, which really is 39 and a half starts was the number, it gets rough. I mean, Mitch Trubisky is as a prime example who had, I think, 11 starts at North Carolina. Anyway, one last under the radar.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. Hit me.
And he's not really under the radar now because I like this guy, and I don't know where his place is. I hope that it would be one of those things that if it doesn't go his way, they can put him on the 16-player practice squad because I like this guy, and it's Bryce Oliver, the wide receiver from Youngstown State. 6'1", 214 in the first 2 preseason games against San Fran, 2 for 16, 3 for 22 against Seattle, and was actually targeted 6 times. But a Youngstown State averaged 8.6 touchdowns per season in 3 years for the Youngstown State guys there. All-time leading touchdown receiver, 26 TDs in 33 games.
Wow.
So 140.
He found that groove with Malik, too.
Yeah. And the thing is, now look, he may not be the most athletically gifted, but he's got the frame and the size and those things where he's maybe something you could develop to help somewhere along the line. But I like Bryce Oliver. I do. I'm interested to kind of see what he does in this final preseason game. As you know, you see these names and numbers and faces, and you know that that's going to change drastically across the league, not just with the Titans.
Do you real quick do a little counting of numbers of rosters the same way players do, Rhett, in your time covering the team?
Not a ton, not like a lot of people do, just because I'm not good at math, Ramon. I mean, I barely made that out of Oakland High School in Murfreesboro. Go Patriots.
I was going to say go Patriots.
But yeah, I just, you can start to. I look at numbers as it pertains to a certain position
Okay.
group. But again, to what we were talking about earlier, because they're a specific defined position doesn't mean they're, because the special teams part of it, they may be a special teams demon.
Yeah.
And so it looks like you've carried an extra person in a group that, but their primary job is something else. So, but yeah, in a couple of positions I do that, but I don't do it. Here's my final 53. 'Cause guess what? Even after the first 53 is
There's
set,
still
after
moves.
roster cuts, there are moves because any GM worth his salt is going to continue to churn the back end of the roster.
By the way, I like Jabari Small making the practice squad too, if possible.
Oh, yeah,
'cause he's
that's a
been
good one.
really
No,
impressive.
that's a good one. And Jabari Small, again, if you're a UT person, that he was not recruited
right.
high. It was a package deal with his teammate.
Yep.
And they came together, and he ended up being, the 5th all-time leading rusher in Vols history?
Yeah.
He's good.
Crazy.
He's a good football
He's
player.
a good
That's the
football
thing.
player.
He might not be the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, whatever. He's a good football player, which guess what? That's what Chad Brinker, Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, and this coaching staff and the football organization, that's what they're looking for.
Play no ball.
Justin Mello was tweeting out a clip this morning to excellent pass protector.
Yep.
Jabari Small, which is a good way.
I wonder
make
if
the
you're going to
roster.
need that at this level.
That's right.
Answer, yes, because that's what most running backs
Yep.
have an issue with, or, there's a learning curve there. Tajay Spears
Oh.
a year ago in those joint practices in Minnesota, he started showing, it's like, hey, watch this. I'm going
Yep.
to pick up this blitz right
And
here.
now he and Pollard, that's something
Hello.
that they say
Yes,
is
sir.
very good when it comes to that.
I'm
Both of
excited
those
about
guys.
this Titans offense. I really am because, and listen, tip of the hat to all of the bell cow backs. 27 Eddie George,
Yep.
22 Derrick Henry, 34 Earl Campbell, and everybody in between. But we're about to see something different, and it's going to be fun.
Rhett Bryan with us Wednesdays here on the show. We are 18 days away
There you go.
from Titans regular season.
Not that anybody's
football.
counting.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
Not at all.
Rhett, thank you.
Thanks, Rhett.
Enjoy it as usual.
Coming up, midweek motivation, plus one name we have not discussed yet today, who I am very fascinated to watch play the game of football today. We got that for you next.
You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com/Kayla to download America's #1 sports book. And remember, must be 21 years and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire in 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Wrapping up the show at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park on a crisp Wednesday morning. Tomorrow at 9:30, the head coach of your Tennessee Titans, Brian Callahan, will stop by. Can't wait.
Can't wait for Big Brian to come through, man.
And he is talking right now to the media and is giving injury updates. Says Caleb Farley should be back today.
Ooh, nice.
Says Tyler Boyd will be back today.
Okay.
And adds Kyle Phillips' injury, says not his fault. And says he has shown well for himself, lots to like about his route running ability.
That's true.
That's actually interesting. Not his fault. Well, obviously, right? It's an injury.
A hamstring, though, sometimes that is
right.
their
Sure.
fault. So that's
but
an important
I
distinction.
do feel like they're kind of emphasizing we're not giving up on him necessarily
I
yet,
like that.
right?
Yeah, no, that's cool. And it mentions also his football attributes, saying he's a great route runner. Like there's transparency in what's in front of you. Again, it's on him to get back out there as quick as he can. What sucks is unless he's planning this week, then they got to go off of just what they saw, which I mean may lead to them stashing him on practice squad, which is the most ideal situation for a guy that has some talent. You know.
I mentioned before the break, I'm fascinated to watch one person today. Person's Braden Arvison.
Why is that?
Because he made a 59-yarder on Saturday.
Okay.
Very interested to watch him kick today and see the response the next day after, I mean, again, 59-yarder. Second longest kick in Nissan Stadium history behind the legendary Rob Baronis.
You got to put some pressure on them, play the music as loud as they possibly can, have guys running in front of them.
Right.
He's put up a really good piece of tape for this team and others moving forward.
Yeah.
Good on him, Will.
I mean, might as well show up in the big moments. I think it's not going to be a situation where he necessarily finds himself on this roster. I think Jim Wyatt brought up the point yesterday on 3HL that, you know, they're happy with the consistency and the body of work that you've seen from Nick Folk. And yes, he is 40 years old. However, look at how many kicks he has had in his career, right? Over 1,000. And Narvison is not got much body of work, but it's putting together a resume. You got to start somewhere.
Nothing more
nervous. And he
nervous.
definitely did that.
Quick hit headlines from Jim Wyatt and, again, Brian Callahan press conference, which is happening right now that is not being streamed. Otherwise, we would give it to you live. Players who will not practice today. That list is Kearis Jackson, Josh Wiley, Otis Reese, and TK McClendon. Wiley and Reese in concussion protocol. We know that. Mason Kinsey, Brian Callahan says, broke his pinky finger and will be limited for the Titans.
Kinsey?
Mason Kinsey. Yeah, he mentioned that earlier this weekend that he had broken a finger. But it is the pinky fingers. That's new information there. And he just said as well that Ryan Stonehouse, they do intend for him to punt in the game on Sunday. So there you go. We got midweek motivation with Inky Johnson coming up in seconds. We will take, as Buck Rising does, a final look at our poll of the morning. We need just the fun music in the background. The poll was, or the tweet was, Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson hate or don't like NFL Red Zone. Will thinks they're insane and loves it. What say you? Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Oh,
that is the show. 615-737-1045 if you want to jump in. And that's not my best impression, but it's not my worst either.
Trash right there.
You just think it's trash because I'm about to
we know the poll.
give the victory. No, the people don't know yet.
Is.
Twitter's not real life, Kayla. The listeners do not know what the poll results are
What
yet
we got going on?
until we tell them. 57% agree with me and love NFL Red Zone. 23% are indifferent. 20% hate it.
Yeah.
Enjoy the wins in life, man.
So
right?
we compare
we all
the
gotta enjoy the
indifferent.
wins.
I get a lot of them.
We compare the
I really do.
indifferent and the no's, and we win.
No, you don't. 57%,
That's right, we do.
still higher than 43%. I know y'all are bad at math.
You're
but you're not
terrible
that
at
bad.
numbers,
Come on.
Will. You're terrible at numbers, man. That's all it is.
Inky Johnson, midweek motivation wraps up the show. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Brian Callahan at 9:30 on your Thursday morning, and Inky Johnson right now.
Don't complain. Contribute. Don't complain. Contribute. Don't complain. Contribute. So when it get hot and you ain't feeling it, and you start taking it for granted, don't complain. Contribute. to this team, to your unit, to this facility, to this organization. Don't complain. Contribute.